on September the 15th, 2022. My name is Joseph Citro, and I will be chairing this meeting. Councilman Gibbons, do you have invocation?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, the pastor is downstairs. He got shifted in the wrong building, so they're bringing him up.
Well, then, let's everyone, if we could please rise. We will do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country at this time. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. For at this time, let's be seated until the pastor gets here for invocation. Let's have roll call.
Carlson. Vieira. Here. Maniscalco. Here. Hurtet. Here. Goose.
Here.
Miranda.
Here.
And Citro.
I am here as well.
We have a physical quorum.
And we will note let the record reflect that we have Councilman Carlson via the internet. Pastor, we're waiting on you. If everyone could please rise.
Well, let me introduce the pastor, Mr. Chairman. I have the distinguished pleasure of introducing a good friend of mine, Pastor Elder Paul Buster. On June 22, 2022, he was unanimously voted to be the pastor of the New Macedonia MB Church in Tampa, Florida. In his almost 20 years as a pastor of the New Macedonia, the following programs have been established: the Glover Scholarship, Feed My Sheep, the Saturday Sanctuary, Mission in Motion of Florida Incorporated. Pastor Glover is affiliated with the Hillsborough Organization for Progressive in Equality, Hope, Community United, Young Men's of MAC, Tampa Bay Coalition of Clergymen, Pastor of United Southwest. Pastor Buster is married to Bridget Buster, with whom they have shared 5 children and 10 grandchildren. Good morning. I welcome Pastor Buster.
God bless you. Thank you. Father, we thank you once again for allowing us to see this day. We thank you for being so good to us and so kind to us, so merciful and so gracious. Father God, we ask right now that you give leadership to our leaders of this city. Father God, allow us to do what is right for our citizens of this city. Father God, we just ask that you cover them with your blood, that you be a fence around them, that you give them guidance, that you give them light, that they'll know which way to go and what to do. In your name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just want to apologize to the public and my colleagues. You may hear from my voice that I'm at home with COVID, and it's the first time I've gotten it. And obviously, I'm not going to come into chambers and put everybody else at risk. So I apologize for not being there in person. I appreciate everybody's flexibility.
Thank you, Councilman Carlson. IT, can we get a little bit more volume on Councilman Carlson's? And please and thank you. At this time, we'll go through the approval of the agenda. Chief, are you going to help us through the, okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Shelby.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of council. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. I'll be brief on the guidelines. The members of the public can attend in person in City Council's chambers today for this regular meeting, or virtually participate in the meeting using what is referred to by Florida statutes and rules as communications media technology. And the instructions for that are available on the City Council's webpage, and also that's at tampa.gov/City Council. And also, Council, that just a reminder that to participate remotely in public hearings, the use of CMT pre-registration is required. Again, the instructions are available in the agenda, and it is also available on the city's website. The public and the citizens of the city of Tampa are able to watch, listen, and view this meeting on Spectrum Channel 640, Frontier Channel 15. And Council, consistent with the agenda and the notice of the hearing, I'd ask the Council waive the rules to allow CMT.
We have a motion made by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Is there any opposed? Thank you. Okay, now we will go through the agenda items. Agenda items 1, 2, and 3 are ceremonial. approval of agendas 1, 2, and 3 are ceremonial. Chief, are you there? Are you going to be giving us an administrative update?
Good morning, council. Good morning, public. John Bennett, Chief of Staff. I believe the only administrative update we have comes through Abby Feely's office. So, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Agenda items 4 and 5, we are keeping on. Ms. Feely has asked, I am sorry, that 7 and 8 be heard together. 9, I believe, wants to be continued until November 3rd.
Good morning, Council. Abby Feely, Deputy Administrator, Development and Growth Management. We would like to ask to continue item number 9 until November 3rd.
Second. Have a motion made by Councilman Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Is there any opposed? Number 10?
Yes. Yes, Ms. Johns, I think, will be speaking on that, so if I may.
Correct. Number 11 wants to ask for a 30-day continuance, longer continuance to October 20th, I believe.
That's fine. Move to continue item 11 to October 20th, 2022.
Second. We have a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 12, Councilman Maniscalco.
Yes, I think they're here, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilman, And number 13 will be heard with number 12. 13 and 14 will be heard. 15. That is also Councilwoman Hurtak?
Yes.
Okay, 16. We'll be hearing that, and I believe Ms. Feely would like to hear 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 in conjunction with one another.
Yes, Council.
Thank you very much. Consent agendas. I believe the only thing that is being pulled, and correct me, please, is 58. Is being removed.
Move to withdraw item 58.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye. About 5 and 6, are they going to be continued?
We're going to hear them first. Okay, agenda item number, we have to open those at 1:03. Okay.
Move to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Then we will start with our first ceremonial item. Facilities Management. Councilman Miranda.
Around like a semicircle.
Everybody gets raises?
Come on, I want to hear this so I can say. Squeeze in good night.
You're in charge of facilities and management, everything else.
Yep.
You carry your name. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, honorable council members. My pleasure this morning to be here, standing with the Chief of the Logistics and Assessment Asset Management, also known as LAM, and all the individuals that work under that great department. Without them, the doors wouldn't open, the toilets wouldn't flush, the electricity wouldn't work, the buildings will be dilapidated, and the paint will be falling off all the buildings, indoor and outdoors. Anytime you come here, you think they're in a circus hanging somewhere up in the second or third floor with a drill and just drilling away trying to find whatever the problem is. And at this time, I'm going to stop and leave Aide Colina to speak about the department that she is in charge of.
Thank you, Councilman Miranda. Good morning, Aide Colina, Director of Logistics and Asset Management. It is my privilege and honor to work alongside these skilled, talented, and dedicated trades workers. We have HVAC, electrical, plumbers, general trades, all of them. And nationally, they recognize National Tradesman Day, but not in Tampa. We're trades workers because we are looking to open it to women. We just haven't had applicants, but I just can't thank this team enough. Councilman Miranda is right. From City Hall to the rec centers to the fire stations, this is the team behind the scene, and I am just so proud, and I celebrate you not only today, but every day. Thank you.
As you well know, some departments in the city keep us safe. Other departments in the cities keep us away from fires and emergencies traveling to and from hospitals. But this department is the one that keeps the buildings where all of us work, not only here, but throughout the city, in shape where you can come in and out without something falling on you. And these doors that you see, all the electrical doors, everything that you see now that's modernized, bulletproof windows, they say it's bulletproof, I don't really know. And I'm not gonna wanna know. But they did all that work. And let me tell you about these tradespeople. No matter what they earn in the city, what they would earn outside would be a lot more. But they wouldn't have the pleasure of working for you. And they're doing this because they love the city and because they wanna be employees that have something that someone else can look at a building that's a little older than me, this building here, and to be in tip-top shape like it is. So for all the tradespeople here, all of you, from the Tampa City Council and all the 400,000 citizens, we all say thank you. But if we said thank you at one time, it'd be an uproar somewhere else. It's my pleasure to read this commendation at this time. In recognition of the men and women of the City of Tampa Logistics and Asset Management Department, Facilities Management Division, in celebration of 2022 National Trades Workers Day, it is with pleasure that Tampa City Council commend and recognizes you for your excellent service, appreciation, your dedication to keeping our city buildings and parks safe, functional, and secure. Each of the 34 trades workers provide skilled, essential services in the general maintenance, mechanical, plumbing, electrical trade to the various City of Tampa departments, as well as serving all of the citizens of Tampa. This talent and dedicated team ensures safe and comfortable work environment for all of us. Please know that your efforts are recognized and valued. And that we say that again, recognized and valued. The City of Tampa feels very proud to honor you this day and this morning. You should be honored every day. What you do is unbelievable. Who gets this?
Thank you, Councilman. Travis, you want to receive it?
Travis, with a name like that, I'm not going to pronounce it. Biararu.
Close enough.
Thank you, Council.
Council?
Let's go to Councilman Vieira.
Thank you, sir. And Councilman Miranda, thank you for bringing this forward. It's very thoughtful of you to honor this work, and we honor all the individuals here for all of your hard work in keeping the city running on time. And you all represent the idea that you get up every day and you work hard using your skills that you have for life that no one can, God willing, ever take away from you. And you're using it for the city of Tampa to keep us running on time. And for me and for everybody here, that's a really honorable endeavor. It really, really is. So just thank you guys every day for your hard work, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much for all that you do. You're always working hard, taking care of everything. Each and every one of you are out there. If something comes up, you're there. Doesn't matter what day, what time, you're taking care of everything. You really are the unsung heroes because, as you know, with COVID, with rearranging this room, with upgrades and updates here on this floor and throughout this building, you're always there. I think you're some of the hardest, if not the hardest working individuals in the City of Tampa family. We appreciate you very much. I know some of you, I see you, we say good morning. Maybe that's all we say is good morning, hi, how are you? But know that we're watching and we appreciate you because we know how hard you work, and you do a wonderful, wonderful job. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I'll say I recognize some faces in the crowd because I've had the pleasure of having you all do some work for me. So I appreciate it. Everything that you do, everywhere you go. The city buildings look beautiful. Everything is, if we have a problem, it's fixed right away, and we just wouldn't be able to do that without you. Thank you for all of your hard work, and I look forward to meeting more of you.
Councilman Goods.
I'm looking for my man. I don't see him anywhere. I call him Big Man. Where's he at? Mike. There he is right there. See him, man. There he is right there. That's my man. That's my man right there. That's my man. But, again, when called upon, you get the job done. Jobs that people can't do, don't know how to do, don't want to do. So we appreciate the work you do and painting our offices at time. We get new people come in, they want a different color, you rush to do it, or changing light bulbs, or changing door locks, or just anything and everything. We ask, and grateful for your service. So again, congratulations today.
Councilman Carlson.
Thank you, sir. I just want to thank you all as well, because you all do your job so well. You enable all the rest of us in these buildings to get our jobs done. So thank you. If you all weren't able to do that, none of the rest of the city could function. So thank you very much. And one last thing, I was looking at some old pictures, antique pictures of the city of Tampa a few days ago, and very proud that this building that you all are in is still there, and you all do a great job of keeping up this important historic building as well as the rest. Thank you so much.
I pass all of you, no matter whether it's here in City Hall or out somewhere else, and I'll look at you and say, hey, I need this, or I need a coupler for that, or I need to have this, or my aide needs something, or I'm always saying that I need something from you. Today I'm saying I need you. The city needs you. Thank you for being part of our family. Thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Mr. Carl, is that the Jackson House behind you?
Get a picture of it.
I can't do it.
Carl, is that the Jackson House behind you?
Yeah, that's the Dean Mitchell painting.
Wow.
Vila Brothers.
Councilman Carlson, what's on your coffee mug?
I've got two this morning, one for Martha
Oh,
Vila,
you got a Vila Brothers mug?
Okay.
and then also a Ybor City one. So
Very
Oh,
good.
okay.
friends.
Councilman Miranda.
Is Mr. Spearman in? I am. There he is. I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. I was looking the wrong way. This next presentation is one that it's given so often to this department because they do time, year after year, they win an award. And this is in recognition not only to the individual who runs the department, but to every individual that works there and does yeoman's work to make sure that this city procurement and everything else that goes along with it is at the highest standard. This presented to Gregory Spearman, CPPO Director of Purchasing in the City of Tampa Purchasing Department, in recognition of receiving the Annual Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award of 2022, presented by the National Procurement Institute. The award is designed to recognize and measure innovation, professionalism, e-procurement, productivity, and leadership attributed to the procurement function. And it's even more impressive that you and your purchase department have received this award only 16 times. I changed that, doesn't say that, but like 16 times means a lot.
It does.
Gregory, the award is a testament to the guidance and leadership that you have demonstrated over many years, and of course includes the accolade that your dedication and knowledgeable staff, and the very fortunate to have leaders like you guiding this outstanding staff. Thank you very much. The Tampa City Council is proud to present this commendation to you and your staff, presented on this, the 15th day of September, the year 2022. And if I ask you, Mr. Spearman, and I know we haven't at all talked about this,
Right.
say how this award is done by the National Institute, and how many times and why, and do all the cities get one? that kind of stuff, because I don't think the public really understands that.
Thank you, Councilman Randall, and thank you, City Council. This award is based on a number of different criteria. And just to do a little show and tell, this is what it looks like. We actually have 16 of these in our showcase and purchasing over on the second floor, 2 East and TMOB. In fact, we're going to have to look at getting a new trophy case because we're running out of room. And I just wanted you to be able to see that. But to answer Councilman Miranda's question, some of the criteria that is used to determine whether or not you're eligible to receive this award would include the following: professional development program for staff, maintaining continuous improvement in terms of purchasing operations, procurement customer service survey, internal customer service training, vendor training, centralized procurement authority, utilization of e-procurement automation, P-card program, and professional certification of staff. So these are the men and women that stand behind me that really make it work every day in procurement in terms of providing all those products and services that we need to make the city operate. So I'd like to also acknowledge my executive aide, Michelle Blizzard. Michelle, here she is. She does a lot to keep us going. Kevin Fry, my business services manager. Kevin actually manages the team of buyers that take care of all the RFPs, invitations to bid, the contracts, the council resolutions, and of course, Deanna Faggart, who handles all of our systems, our P card, our WEX card, our fuel card, inventory, all those kinds of things. And then, of course, we have Mr. Tony McGee, for you, Tony, that manages our warehouse. We have 3 locations. We have water, wastewater, and we have mobility, transportation, and TFR. And just one other final note. I want to also acknowledge the Chief of Staff for his support and the Mayor of the Purchasing Department, our partnership with Gregory Hart with Equal Business Opportunity, and of course, the legal support we get from Marcella Hamilton. She's here someplace. She keeps us out of trouble. So one final note, Council, just to kind of give you some idea in terms of the breadth of things that we actually procure for the city. The police cars and accessories, including the light bars, the sirens, the computers, the striping that goes on the cars, police officer uniforms, tasers, the weapons, the ammunition, the holsters, the body-worn camera, the fire trucks, the ambulances, the medications that go on the ambulances. We run and maintain 3 warehouses. We procure services to maintain the TFR 5 janitorial services for all city buildings, lawn maintenance services, the wellness center contract for city employees, the purchase of gasoline and diesel fuel, CNG to run the garbage trucks, armed and unarmed security guard services, elevator services, plumbing services, and the list goes on and on and on. We thank you for this accommodation, and we enjoy our partnership and working with you.
Let me present you this, and as you're speaking about all the things that you all do, came up with a couple of things. Working together, we stay together.
Yes.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you very
you
much.
and your whole staff. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Councilman, hold on, Mr. Spearman. You're gonna get more accolades from us up here. Councilman Carlson.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, thanks to you and your team, and congrats on everything. I know you guys have a huge volume of work. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilman Goods.
Well, Mr. Spearman, again, like Mr. Miranda said, 16 straight years. I think what stand out when you read the criteria sheet was number 2. I think that's critical with a department like yours to always improving, making things better. And I can give you an accolade and say you have been doing that. Even though you've been getting it 16 years, you're still doing what this council is asking to make it better, and people are watching and noticing. So we say thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you for all you do. I read all the contracts. I know what you do day in and day out. And I want to say thank you, especially for the hard work that you're doing to find new small businesses to work with and the equal opportunity. Your team is already going above and beyond and is now going even more above and beyond, and it is noticed, and we really appreciate it. And Mr. Spearman brought forward to me, I believe, 7 of our contracts that did meet the criteria we had this week, and because they're on consent, we don't get to celebrate them all the time. So I just want to celebrate you all today and say thank you for your hard work and continuing to move the needle forward so that we are a city that others can look at to try to emulate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Look how lucky we are. We just recognized facilities management, and look what a wonderful team that worked so hard. And now you and your team, 16 years of excellence. You are the consummate professional, sir. You and everybody with you today keep the city running. We're part of a family, and you know, you really make us proud. You're there doing the work day in and day out, taking care of this city, taking care of these contracts, but in a professional manner that is unmatched. And that's why when you get these awards, you are truly deserving of it. You and everyone with you, we thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for all the hard work that all of your team does. We appreciate everybody. It's such an integral part of our city purchasing and of any big municipality and city, and you all do it so well. And Mr. Spearman is always such a kind, gentle, and just a professional individual. And so we just appreciate every one of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Spearman, it's been a pleasure knowing you and your staff. You guys have done an amazing job on all sorts of fronts, but nobody ever wants to thank you for saving us money. Thank you for saving the taxpayers money.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Councilman.
it.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilman Goods.
Ladies? Well, gentlemen, again, Mr. Chairman, good morning. Council members, good morning. I have the distinct pleasure of going to a conference a couple of weeks ago. Our Councilwoman Hurtak was there as well. Great conference. Learned some new things. I was also able to throw out some new words and just hear what people are thinking. And then I was told that our housing department was getting an award. So I was like, our housing department is getting an award? Which is that? And they say the Infill housing. As you know, council had asked several times about getting us the numbers of unvacant used land in the city. And my understanding that they heard us. And Ms. Henderson was able to create this program to start putting our infill housing to work, which I'm very proud of. I've been to several ribbon cuttings for that program. So I'm ecstatic and elated that they got the job done and were recognized throughout the state of Florida for the job that they did. So I want to say congratulations to them. Everyone knows housing is a critical issue right now in our city. And for us to be one of the front runners to a leader, I was very proud to see that happen. So I want to say congratulations to you and Abby and of course the new boss, Ms. Travis. So without further ado, I'll let you or your boss explain what kind of transpired with the award, and then we'll talk about the accommodation.
Good morning, Council. Nicole Travis, Administrator of Development and Economic Opportunity. I'll let Keon talk a little bit about the program, but I just wanted to say how much I appreciate this team. They're a small but mighty team, and every week we're before you talking about housing affordability and trying to be innovative in how we could best serve the citizens of Tampa during a really unprecedented time that we're struggling with housing. And so the team that you have, it's just a few of us up here to receive this award and talk about this, but really we have like 30 people in the office working day and night trying to come up with different solutions because that you're faced with on a weekly basis. So thank you for the opportunity. The Infill program, this is the second phase. We're launching the third phase this fall, and the City Council and the CRA board should be proud of the success of this program. And I'll let Kayon talk to you a little bit about the details of the Infill program.
Good morning, Council. Thank you so much for recognizing us. As Nicole said, that there's a team still back at Lemon Street who works really hard to make sure all of this is possible. We are in our second phase of our infill program where we're activating vacant lots that we provide to developers to build single-family homes to those who are at 140% of the, or below of the area median income. So low to moderate income households. In the second phase, really in 4 years, we will have 112 homes that are going to be sold to those who are low to moderate income families. One of the things I certainly want to thank everybody at the city for is I really thank administration for trusting the process of the idea that we have to try to go forward and convey these lots to these developers. We want to thank our legal team because we constantly go to legal in trying to get this. It really is such a huge approach to get everything done from construction team and certainly being able to come before council with these agreements and with these ideas to get them approved. So just with everything that we've been able to accomplish, like Nicole said, we'll have infill phase 3 that will come out fall in about November so we can activate some additional lots and have more people in households who want to be homeowners.
Well, gentlemen, there you have it. And again, you know, it was a great conference. Everyone's saying attainable housing now. That's the new word now, because nothing's affordable. So that's what I say now, attainable. But again, without further ado, let me just present this. Tampa City Council commendation presented to Housing and Community Development Division. In recognition of the City of Tampa's Housing and Community Development Division for your hard work and dedication to developing affordable housing and the Citizens Outreach Programs, the City of Tampa's HCD Division manages a variety of housing programs that have improved the lives of countless residents in the City of Tampa. The city's Housing and Community Development team received an award at the Florida Housing Coalition Affordable Conference at the SHIP Administrators Roundtable for successful affordable housing partnerships, partnering with small developers, especially minority-owned companies, which we have been doing that, that may have never had an opportunity to do business with the city previously. In 2021, the Housing and Community Development team identified and awarded city and CRA-owned vacant lots to 11 local minority developers at no cost in return for affordable housing units. A practical, effective, and sustainable approach for the creation and protection of affordable housing in the City of Tampa and the goals promised to its residents on the horizon. The City Council of the City of Tampa is proud to present this combination to the city's Tampa Housing Community Development Division, who exemplifies the types of optimism, dedication, and innovative approaches everyone admires, respects, and cheers success. This team is a great asset to the City of Tampa. Presented this day, the 15th day of September 22. Congratulations.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, when you do things for someone else, and that's what all of you do, you're not doing it for you're doing it for someone else. Give them a hand up, not a push down. It's one of the most rewarding things you can ever do. You feel better, you look better, and certainly the people that you're helping also feel better. And today's society, a lot of us are left behind for whatever reason. And you're the ones that give them a hand up. Congratulations to all of you.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Y'all are just rock stars. I mean, literally rock stars. What you do and how you took this from the first iteration to the second iteration and said, we can make this better and we can add, we can promote, invite in smaller contractors who've never had the chance to work with the city and give them the opportunity. And I've been to several ribbon cuttings too. They've produced beautiful homes that are quality, that people can live in with dignity, that are attainable. I'm gonna appreciate Councilman Coon's words, attainable. But what I love even more is that with this award, you aren't stopping The next phase is going to look at other types of housing. We're not going to stop trying to find new people to partner with. So what I love the most about this award is you aren't just saying, oh, we did this, yay, let's keep going. You're even pushing the envelope even more, and that to me is even more celebratory. So thank you so much for continuing to do everything in your power. You are a small but mighty team, and every time we come to you, this housing crisis has been overwhelming for all of us. But every time we come to you, you find a way, and not just a way, but a creative and outside the box way. Thank you so much. I love working with you. Look forward to continuing.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Congratulations. Let me say publicly how much I look up to, respect, and admire all of you. When we say we want to attract the best and the brightest here to Tampa, you are the examples. You are the best and the brightest. And we're so lucky to have you here. Nicole Travis, I have praised you publicly before, and I'm not going to stop. You, your team, Abby, everybody here, you work so hard and so diligently. You're always here to answer questions. You're always here to look for solutions. And if there's not a solution, you look for another path forward. But we are very grateful to have you here. The service to the city of Tampa, to the residents, in this crisis of housing affordability and attainability. Councilman, I know that you're looking for the solutions and you're doing your best. But again, congratulations and thank you. We're very lucky to have you.
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you very much, and thank you guys for all your hard work that you do. And I know that it's really, really appreciated, and you all get a lot of fires thrown at you, including just this crisis, and a lot of last-minute requests, etc. And just know that we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Carlson.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for everything you do. As my colleague said, you all are rock stars, and appreciate all the new team members that are there. We all get blamed for the sins of the past. For about 10 years, the city hardly focused on affordable housing at all. And you all see every week that we get blamed, you all get blamed, but we know that you all are working hard to try to change that. We have a shortage of about 50,000 homes, and it's an impossible task. Had you all been on board 10 years ago, we might not have this problem now, but we can look forward to the next 10 years and hope that we can put a big dent in it. So thank you so much for all you do.
Ladies, I am so proud of you. You are making dreams come true. That American dream called housing, of owning a home, of pride in home ownership. You're making that dream come true. And I thank you. Y'all don't get enough recognition. But thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Bring them up here. Bring them up here. Thank you. That way we won't have to wait. If everyone does. All right, Senator, you're the one with the time.
Where's Miss Hurtak? See if we can get Miss Hurtak, because she was at the conference. I knew she wanted to be a part of this photo.
We'll take a practice one. Right, real quick. 1, 2, 3. Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, I need one. Hold on.
Now, at this time, we will open public comment. And if anybody wishes to give public comment at this time, would you please line up, my left, your right. Everyone giving public comment will have 3 minutes to do so. Anyone can start at this time.
Natasha Goodley, 2705 East 24th Avenue. Thank you for bestowing upon me the honor to help shape the ways the City of Tampa can work to preserve Black history. I will be ready with a full presentation in November. If you simply just let me know the date, and I'll be ready. But I'm here today to ask that an ordinance be created to respect our cemeteries. As I mentioned last time, we've discovered numerous Black cemeteries that have not been preserved within the City of Tampa. The College Hill Cemetery, the cemetery at 30th and Sly, the cemetery at King High School, the cemetery at Robles Park, Memorial Park Cemetery, etc. I'm asking that we prevent the use of any activity on land deemed to be a cemetery. It hurts my heart to see the Italian Club Cemetery still utilizing the College Hill Cemetery as their parking lot, or to see the city storing equipment at times at the cemetery on 30th and Sly. We have already forgotten these individuals. The least we can do is respect their final resting place. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Goode.
one personal privilege. I received several phone calls, and of course, a lot of my family members live right at that corner there. And Ms. Goodley is correct. There is a lot of that going on with parking, especially that one at 30th and Sly. So if it wouldn't be a problem, I'd like to make a motion or an ordinance be presented in reference to that. Is there a problem with that, sir?
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, so I move that the legal department come back in November with an ordinance for the city of Tampa that states that a known cemetery must be treated as such. There should be no parking on it, no storing of items, no events held on this property, etc. The land should be respected and carried in the dignity of the cemetery. And we can bring that back November, first date in November for that? November 6th? Third? November 3rd.
We have a motion made by Councilman Goode, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Thank you.
Good morning. Bob Whitmore, 3111 Hawthorne Road, Executive Director of City Tree. This morning, 50 scared and confused human beings landed in a strange land. They were lured onto a plane in Texas, a jet chartered by our governor, using state funds and flown to Massachusetts with no idea where they were going. Promised at the point of disembarkation that they were being taken to a place where they could and would be processed faster to begin a new life in a land of the free. Authorities in Martha Vineyard, where the plane landed, had not expected these men and women and children and are now scrambling to find housing and provisions for them, for these human beings, who are now in a northern climate where the winds will soon begin to blow and the snow begin to fly. And soon these men and women, reportedly from Venezuela, will face something few of us would want to face with a roof over our head and proper cold weather gear, a New England winter. Like placing a burning bag of feces on the doorstep of a neighbor and watching them trying to stomp it out, I'm sure this gave our governor a good laugh. But this childish, vindictive, cruel stunt didn't involve feces. It used the lives of fellow human beings without any regard for their well-being. And he did it in the name of Florida. So what does this have to do with city politics? We are blessed and lucky to live in a progressive and open-minded city, as represented by what happens here today and the people who've gotten these awards. A city that certainly would never ever condone the human trafficking of unsuspecting and disadvantaged men and women who had no idea that what they were getting into, literally. So with that in mind, I am asking the council and the mayor's office to draft a letter expressing this city's disgust, dissent,
and distance ourselves from the actions of the governor and the current administration regarding this heinous and illegal action. I love Florida. I love Tampa. I am personally tired of continually being embarrassed and ashamed by the actions of an administration which does not reflect in any way the good and compassionate people of these cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Keela
Ms.
McCaskill.
McCaskill, 1 second, please. We have Councilman Vieira.
I was going to say, if I may, to the gentleman, I usually don't comment during public comment, so thank you so much for that. No, I'll be glad to make that motion at the end. You know what among many things that gets me mad about that is those are Venezuelans, it appears, who are fleeing the Maduro regime, a Marxist communist regime, like my family fled in 1960, and they're being used as a political prop to troll people and to just feed more political fast food to a base, and it really makes me angry. So actually, I talked about it this morning, some on social media, and I'll be glad to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Goods.
No, Mr. Miranda.
Mr. Miranda, I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for having the courage to come up and speak that way. It's, if they think they're using for political purposes, for their benefit, they're wrong. So 1970, the Hispanic population in the United States of America has grown by 540%. Let me say that again, 540%. We're now almost 19% of the population of all the United States. Let me also say that why send them to Martha's Vineyard? Just think of the idea why. Because they don't have any. And they wanted to show those individuals that they can't even govern. That's what they're doing. And I'm ashamed to say that if it wasn't for the Hispanics and other races and other mixes, Miami would never be Miami.
Amen.
And Tampa would never be Tampa.
No, sir.
We live in a city that no matter who you are, what color you are, what race you are, how tall you are, how fat you are, how skinny you are, everyone's acceptable to one another. That's what I believe in. So by doing that, I think the political stunt may backfire. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Ms. McCaskill. Ms. McCaskill, thank you very much for your patience.
Good morning. Keela McCaskill is my name. I don't know if this is appropriate. Mr. Shelby, I miss you. And as a token of appreciation, I want to get you dinner. I don't even know if it's appropriate, but I want to get you and your wife dinner to your favorite restaurant establishment. You have truly been missed. No pun intended on Mr. Massey, but you've been missed. So helpful whenever we need it. So thank you. But this morning I'm here on Pure, concerning Pure as a lifelong resident. You know, I operate by an old principle that in a multitude of counsel, there's safety. And it just, I'm not an elected official. I'm not, you know, I'm not a city staff member. But just as a human being, I want to give people my best. When I give information, I want to make sure it's factual. As a professional, you know, I have a fiduciary responsibility. I'm responsible to give people factual information, definitely based upon truth. But unfortunately, that's not what I feel we get when we deal with the administration. So when this Pure situation came up, the information that's been provided, unfortunately, comes at a time where the citizens, we don't necessarily trust the administration. I mean, our administration in the middle of a DOJ investigation, we found out about it on a oops. The whole Hannah Street situation, the whole witch hunt on our most active city council members, the whole recusing themselves when it's convenient for them in terms of the administration. It's just so much. We're wore out, and we necessarily don't trust the information that's been provided from the administration as it relates to Pure. We already know that none of us are experts as it relates to Pure. So I don't see why we couldn't get scientists and environmentalists to come bring this information to the community before you as city council members. That information wasn't presented. So for me, I'm not comfortable with the information that's been provided to the community or even here at city council. So when it comes before us, I'm in looking at Pure and looking at the factual information that we have with the pipes, I see the need for urgency as it relates to the pipes. Jackson, Mississippi has put us all on alert if you've heard about it. That's the situation. Our pipes are over 100 years old, plus 100 plus years old. That's factual. That's information. That's documented everywhere. What's not clear and transparent is the need for this pure. They won't answer simple questions like, is it necessary? One, is it safe? And how much it's going to cost? That's 3 basic questions we should be able to get the answers to, and we don't get that from the administration. So I believe that just based on the information we've seen, I think we'll survive. We have safe water for another 100 years with ample supply, even with all the growth. That information is found, and that's factual. I just believe that Tampa will survive without pure. We'll survive. Delay that pure thing until 2045. Put it over there in the comp plan. Say no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Phil Compton with the 1,100 members of Friends of the Hillsborough River, one of the stakeholders that's been talking to the mayor and her top staff for going on 2 years now about their plans for Pure. Pure is an old idea, something that Pam Iorio and Bob Buckhorn wanted to do. The people said no to them, and today we say no to this mayor. Pure, we're now convinced, is just toilet to tap. Old, contaminated water in new bottles with a new label. And we ask you today to say no to Pure, no to the request for a continuance on the funding amendment, no to that funding request, no to any future funding. Just no. Now, why no? Do we need this water? No. We're getting plenty of rain, as you can see from the Tampa Tribune, Tampa Bay Times, every day on the back of the sports page. We are within 1 inch of average annual rainfall at this time, 49.5 inches. Our situation, our future, is nothing like California. The Hillsborough River Reservoir is the polar opposite of Lake Mead. Is this water safe? The city treats and tests our river water so that we know that it meets all federal and state standards for health and safety. But this wastewater would have some amounts of every drug, every chemical anyone gets at Walgreens, hormones, antidepressants, insulin, you name it. What happens when your grandchild drinks this water with all that in it her entire life? And it builds up little by little. When fish swim in it as they spawn, we don't know. But the problem is the federal government is way behind on setting any safety standards for any of these new chemical contaminants that the water department's never dealt with. There are also some scary forever chemicals, PFAS, that we now know we should have none of in our drinking water, but there's no safety standards for those too. But staff want to push ahead regardless. Problem is, we won't ever know if it's safe until there are safety standards for these new contaminants like there are today for the contaminants we're used to dealing with. Instead of water quality reports that document how we are complying with federal and state drinking water standards, and I know we are, we'll have to stamp caveat emptor on our water bills. And no, stakeholders have not rejected some standards, as staff told a reporter this week. We have simply pointed out that the hundreds of standards for these new contaminants we would need to have to ensure safety do not yet exist. It's not up to the engineers and the attorneys here to set them. It's up to qualified scientists at EPA. Worst part is, this will cost a lot. It could easily double utility bills or more once we finally do get safety standards and figure out we have to rebuild what's already a multi-billion-dollar project and start all over again to try to make it safe. Affordable, clean water is a basic human right, and a government that works on our most urgent problems is the kind of government we should have. As a member of the Mayor's Advisory Council on Sustainability and Resilience, I urge you to end this distraction of time and resources that's hurting our capacity to work on our real needs: affordable housing, clean energy, preventing flooding, to name a couple. We have real challenges to make Tampa sustainable. This isn't one of them. Vote no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Gary Gibbons. My business address is 3321 Henderson Boulevard in Tampa. I'm the Vice President and Vice Chair and Political Chair of the Tampa Bay Sierra Club, and I'm proud to speak today on behalf of our 2,500 members and more than 13,000 friends and allies on our email list who look to the Sierra Club for guidance on important environmental issues, and we are urging all of them to oppose the Pure project. I'm also here this morning to ask you to kill this project. All that we've seen after studying this project for more than 20 months is that it's dangerous, costly, and unnecessary. Specifically, we want you to vote no on the continuance and no on the request for additional funding. We've worked in good faith with the city staff for more than 20 months, and we've had monthly meetings that lasted at least 90 minutes each. And throughout that time, the city staff has told us that the 10-year time period allowed under state law to build a big project like this is a very, very short time. Yet today, they're coming and asking for a long continuance. None of that is consistent with the urgency they've been saying for the last 2 years. We've also suggested to the city many times that they should join with all of the other 167 municipalities around the state who are also under this ridiculously short time frame to ask the state legislature for an extension of the 10-year time frame to comply with Senate Bill 64. The city's not interested in requesting an extension from the legislature. Why not? They asked for another continuance today, though. Are they trying to run out the clock so they can say they have no choice but to select TAP as their only alternative? 3 of us from the Sierra Club met with Mayor Castor more than 6 months ago to express our concerns about Pure. Before that meeting, we gave a list of 17 questions to the mayor and her staff, questions the public should know the answers to find out and give real feedback about Pure. Yet 6 months later, we still have not received any answers to those 17 questions, nor did the city do public outreach and report back to City Council in July as they promised that they would do when they came before Council asking for the initial funding in February. We did not oppose the initial funding because it was supposed to be used for studying alternatives other than putting it into the wastewater, into the aquifer or the reservoir or the lower river, and the money was to also be used for public outreach and education. None of that has occurred. On Monday, Whit Reamer held a press conference at Sulphur Springs, and he told the media and the public that Pure hasn't been decided yet. We haven't figured out what to do. But the alternatives are, we can put it in the reservoir, we can put it in the lower river, or we can put it in the aquifer. Folks, that's TAP. That's what they've wanted to do for 20 years. Until you tell us how the wastewater is going to be cleaned, what contaminants are going to be removed and what are not going to be removed, then don't put it in the river, don't put it in the aquifer, and don't put it in the reservoir. This is TAP with a new name, and the funding needs to stop.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
City Council. My name is Geraldine Rogers Toombs. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection states that reclaimed water should not be directly applied to surfaces of vegetables or other edible crops that are not peeled, cooked, or thermally processed before being consumed. But you are considering to expose it to human beings. So why would it be okay to utilize sewage water for public use? I'm in complete opposition to the City of Tampa implementing a plan to recycle sewage water, I know you call it wastewater, in our day-to-day use. It's reasonable to conclude there will be enormous environmental repercussions if you move forward with that plan. We have seen the consequences of contaminated water in Flint, Michigan, Jackson, Mississippi, and even New York associate the increase in the polio virus to their water system. Now we're dealing with COVID, the monkeypox, and whoever else knows that's going on with these viruses that we're dealing with. It's important that we take all these factors into consideration when you're making this decision. The proposal to recycle sewage water for public use is too dangerous a project to jeopardize the health and safety of the citizens of this community. Has your staff provided enough evidence that it will not be harmful chemicals? Has your staff provided evidence all harmful chemicals will be removed from the water? Who's to say a home water purification system will remove enough pollutants out of that reclaimed water? You know, you might be able to afford the purification system, and I might be able to afford it, but what are these low-income families going to do? They're not going to be able to purchase bottled water as a way of life. Everything has gone up in cost. And so I just ask and plead with you to vote no in recycling sewage water for citizen use. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Keith Jacobs, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to come before you to speak on behalf of the Russo family and the Parks and Recreation contract. I've been in Tampa over 35 years. I spent the majority of my life here. I grew up all over the city of Tampa. I graduated from the heart of Tampa, East Tampa, Hillsborough High School. I've seen firsthand the power and impact that extracurricular activities and sports and other community entities have on the success of children in the community. I am a community member, very active in community. I mentor children from grades kindergarten through 12th grade through my free and accepted masonry work. I mentor kids through that, and I'm also a Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated brother. So I spend a lot of time working in our community. In addition to that, I am a 18-year educator, former principal in Hillsborough County Public Schools. One thing that I can tell you firsthand is that less than a third of our students in the city of Tampa have an active outlet for them after school. And as you all know from your position, you've seen that those saying that 67% of students who have been left out of extracurricular activities have not had a home or a respite that extended beyond the classroom, and those kids tend to get into more trouble in the community. So I'm telling you that places like Hit Factory Tampa, which operates out of Wellswood, has become a respite for so many kids. I watched firsthand how kids of all different income backgrounds, racial backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, talent levels have come to that park and called that place home. For years, for decades, that park has served as a home for so many families. Regardless of talent level, the Russo family, they take those kids in. And the reason why that's important is because it gives them that sense of confidence and it gives them that sense of hope as they try to matriculate through this very difficult kindergarten through 12th grade system as we prepare them for post-secondary education. In order to prepare a student for post-secondary education, they have to have relevant hobbies and a connection to the community. Without a connection to the community, they lose hope. So I can tell you firsthand, my own child, who has autism spectrum disorder, is a part of this organization. When he joined the organization 5 years ago, he was a shy kid, didn't speak to many people, low in confidence. He was only an average student. But the Russo brothers, particularly Paul Russo, instilled a certain level of confidence in him that now he has excelled, and now he is in 10th grade. He has a 3.86 GPA in all honors and AP classes. He's a highly talented baseball athlete with interest from various D1 college programs. But more important to that, he feels like he's a part of a community that accepts him for the way that he is and that embraces him as family. And that's why it's important to continue contracts with organizations like Hit Factory and, that are operating out of Wellswood, because it provides that sense of hope for those families. So I ask that you take that in consideration. Thank you.
Travel safe, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Stephanie Dunlop, and I'm here, it's my pleasure as well to speak in regards to the Russo brothers and their parks and recreation contract that they have. So I'm going to speak a little bit from my heart. My son, Drew, joined the Hit Factory organization approximately 5 years ago, and my husband, my son, myself never would imagine it would be such a huge part of our lives, as well as Wellswood, the park itself, as it is today. My son would love to be here, but of course at 15, he's at school where he should be. But there were two things he asked me this morning to share with all of you. And keep in mind, he's a 15-year-old teenage boy, so he's not full of many words. But number one, he wants you to know that the Hit Factory organization and the Russo brothers and all of their coaches are amazing, quote unquote amazing. And he has learned so much from them and has gained so many of his best buddies actually through the organization. Number two, he wanted to share with me that he has improved drastically his baseball skills. Not that you care to know that, but that's what he wanted you to know. As his mother and someone who is full of far more words than he is these days, I don't disagree with him on either of those points, but I do want to say that the organization at Wellswood Park has done far more for my son than simply being amazing and teaching him baseball skills. It has truly, these past 5 years, I have watched him develop into a phenomenal young man. He has learned so much, not just from the Russo brothers, but all of their coaches there on site at Wellswood. He has learned self-discipline. He has learned time management. He's learned how to lose. He's learned how to win. He's learned how to be a good teammate and how to be a leader. And he's learned humility as well as how to deal with adversity. And these are life skills that will carry on with my son far longer than any baseball skills that he develops at Wellswood through those coaches. So I too ask you that you keep into consideration, Wellswood has been home to Hit Factory for far more years than we've ever even been involved. And I remember being in that park before my son joined Hit Factory and before the Russo brothers had control of that park. And I remember, I hope not to offend anybody, but there were some not so good smells there, the lights were out, the fields weren't in very good condition. And through the years that we've been a part of the Hit Factory organization, we have watched the Russo brothers firsthand with their coaches develop that park and give improvements to that park that these youth are able to enjoy and able to flourish from. So I'm telling you, these kids, the boys and the girls, they're not just learning baseball and softball skills, they're becoming young adults in front of our eyes. And in this world full of so much negativity, I just ask that you don't take something away from our youth that not only our community wants, but our community needs this at Wellswood in the city of Tampa. So please keep that in mind, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning, council members. I am Scott Powell. I'm from South Tampa. I am here also to speak about Paul Russo and his organization. He asked me to come here to basically tell my son's story. My son had always been a baseball player. I came up through the South Tampa and Temple Terrace before that. Started off at Plant High School, made the junior varsity team as a freshman. Also, played as a sophomore. Early on in that year, he got brought up to the varsity team. And of course, it's a good school, good talent. He was young. He only played a little bit. The coach was always on him about his weight. Was a little bit heavier at the time, and the coach said, "Look, I know you can hit, but you're not going to start at this school until you get in shape." Goes on to his junior year, still on varsity, doesn't play much. The coach is always on him, really drilling him. As you know, not all coaches have terrific experience. Sometimes they're just doing it for the stipend. Sometimes they're not terrific with kids, which is an example in this case. Goes into his senior year, usually the most celebrated time of a high school athlete's career. My son Drew, also with the program for about 6 years, unrelated to the last Drew, comes to me and says, "Dad, I don't want to play my senior year of baseball." We always thought he was going to go on and play and further his career, and we thought, okay, well, he's changed his mind. That's what he wants to do. He's done with baseball. He said, no, I'm going to continue with baseball, but I'm going to keep playing with Paul. And I'm going to try to find some way to continue my dream and play in college. Of course, skeptical, all right, well, you're not playing high school anymore, so what are the chances of that? We didn't think really much of it, but Drew believed in it, and he continued to work hard, and he continued to work with Paul and his organization. And after he had graduated through a very circuitous route, Paul secured him a full scholarship to baseball. And he played the next 2 years for free at a junior college in Alabama. From there, he has parlayed that into a 4-year school down in the University of Fort Lauderdale, continuing to play baseball, continuing that dream that he has had since he was little. And that would not have happened had it not been for Paul Russo's organization and the drive and the belief that he has for him. And so I'm not sure what really is going on with this meeting today, but I want you to understand that everybody knows Tampa is a baseball hotbed, and we have 5 or 10 people drafted every year and 10 or 20 kids that go to D1 schools that everybody knows. But there are hundreds of kids in this program who nobody knows except Paul and his coaches, and then he works with them continually to get scholarships where they can be found. And it took my son going to Alabama and going out of state where they want the Florida players, and they gave him a full scholarship, and for 2 years. That wouldn't have happened had he just listened to his coach and said, okay, that's it, we're done. So I want you to consider that. Sorry, I've gone a little bit over, but thank you.
Sir, to your point, there are more Hall of Fame baseball players per capita from the city of Tampa than any other city in this nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Huru. Huru means freedom in Swahili. So we as African people should always be thinking about our freedom. I mean, 'tis not, that's my name, mean anything possible. What I like to say is, people can only see and hear people that they're afraid of. People can only see and hear things that they're afraid of. Religious people can only see and hear the Pope. Spiritual people can only see and hear God. Politicians can only see and hear donors and lobbyists. The state can only see and hear Ron DeSantis. In this city, the city of Tampa, these politicians can only see and hear Jeff Vinnick. They can only see and hear the people that they're afraid of. Anything that gets past this city council gets through because the hierarchy and the chain of command has spoken. The mayor is the lead puppet, and the city council are their chief followers. If the public is upset about the water reclamation project, water treatment, or reintroducing sewage water back into the system, then they need to impress upon Jeff Vinnick that it is not in his best interest. This city council are mostly made up of scary individuals that present themselves as normal, decent human beings that have an interest in the advancement of society. But in reality, they're regular puppet politicians that gets their propaganda, indoctrination, and orders from the ruling class. And the ruling class is anti-working class, anti-poor, anti-black, and anti-inclusiveness. People always ask, why aren't there more black people down here? It is because black people are afraid to come down here. Black people are afraid of white people. It isn't because black people are complacent or regressive. It isn't because we have no willpower or ambition. It is because we have been terrorized for the past 622 years by an aggressive, power-hungry race of people that teaches black people to follow the leadership of white power. The white people form unethical alliances with black con artists, black preachers, black so-called community leaders, and black sellouts, ultimately making our people think that we are our own problem. They tell our black women that it's okay to go to child support and snitch on our men. They teach our men to snitch on one another. They teach our students and children to act in conjunction with the police. They tell us to say no to drugs as they lock up our entire community. They tell us to accept local or national leadership that is not representative of our needs. How is it that we can have a black city council representative since 1983, Perry Harvey that is, all the way to 2022, almost 40 years, and not one city council representative has uttered the word reparations? Well, as stated, black people are afraid of white power, and it's time our representatives and this city council start taking the word reparations very serious in relationship to this city that has been formed over 157 years ago.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jenna Poulin. I'm a resident of the city, and I'm also a business owner. I would like you to know that food, shelter, and water are basic needs of life. So without them, we will not survive. I'm here as a water advocate and begging the city councilmen and women to stop this project and all funding until we can actually come to some type of clear plan by the mayor. Right now, there is no plan that's very clear. There's no regulations by the EPA or the FDA for secondary water usage until it gets filtered, which we don't even know how they're going to be doing that at the moment. There's over 60 chemicals right now that aren't even tested by the EPA that cause cancer. I'm a hairdresser, so I'm very well aware of all these chemicals. The current standards from them, from the EPA, they can't actually, like, even if they found something in the water, the EPA can't even find the state right now since the Supreme Court's pretty much dismantled them. So I'm really worried about the forever chemicals that are in the water. Forever chemicals are chemicals that bind together to help products like French fries, when you touch them, they don't get hot, and they're in makeup to help it spread and things like that. So when people use the water, it actually goes down the drain. And if they're in there forever, they don't break down. 88% of Americans, according to the CDC, already have forever chemicals in their bloodstream. And when it comes to funding, I would like to point out that Jeff Vinnick, the Amelie Oil CEO, the Glacier family, there's like 3 Lightning players, baseball players, there's the former CEO of Publix, Jenkins, and the owner of Tampa Made Food Company. They all use over 1 million gallons of water every year. One of them actually uses 3.7 million, which is like 350-something thousand gallons a month. The average person in Tampa uses 70,000 gallons a year. So we want to go to funding. I don't understand why we can't charge These people who are obviously abusing the water, not to mention their businesses like Midtown Plaza before it opened, used 240,000 gallons of water a day before it opened, with no residents, no businesses, no nothing. And why aren't these people getting fined? Why should I, who struggle and pay $2,000 a month, have to pay for these jerkholes using the water that the city's claiming has all disappeared? Sorry, thank you.
Okay, good morning. I'm Nancy Stevens, Conservation Chair of the Sierra Club of Tampa Bay. Today I'm urging you to vote no to continue PURE. I want you to urging you to vote no to further funding of PURE right now. When the city presented the PURE proposal to the Sierra Club, Friends of the River, and the League of Women Voters in December 2020, my predecessor, Kent Bailey, would have immediately objected. It was an obvious rebranding of PURE. Instead, our group, so-called stakeholders now, decided to work with the city staff to raise the issues and concerns, our issues and concerns, and communicate what we've heard from the public. We recommended outside scientists to come in and look at the proposal so that they could raise questions to be answered to determine if PURE was even safe. We recommended an independent panel of experts to look at the alternatives, and including not using the wastewater at all. After more than 20 months, our questions remain unanswered, expert scientific recommendations have been ignored, and alternatives to using wastewater have not been seriously considered. Citizens' concerns about drinking reclaimed water is still dismissed as the ick factor. People understand what drinking water that comes from toilets and industrial waste means and have legitimate concerns. What contaminants are in the water? You've heard some of them today. Are the levels safe? Are the levels of these contaminants safe? How is the city going to guarantee that it will be safe? The city has not even begun to address those legitimate issues. Citizens have asked, well, why not do something else? Expanding reclaimed water, the purple pipes, to water lawns is dismissed as too expensive. Regional solutions have never been discussed. When asked about water needs, if you go to the website, you get a video on, there's going to be droughts. We don't live in the arid West. In Tampa, climate change will probably bring more floods, not more droughts. Why use the wastewater? It was mentioned this Senate Bill 64 is requiring us to use it. The city has made no attempts to push back on that legislation. The stakeholders group has provided a technical paper describing that what we are doing right now with our wastewater is a beneficial use. We hope the city will take that paper and submit an application to the DEP, and that the stakeholders and city council will have a chance to review that paper before it goes into the DEP. We hope that the city makes an honest attempt to get the pressure of SB 64 off of us. In February, we acknowledged the 1.2 in funding. That money has not been accounted for. We haven't seen the results. Instead, we were surprised by this additional request. We urge you to say no to this additional funding today. Fortunately, we're not in a water crisis at the moment. We need to take time for water safety standards to be set, take time to work with Tampa Bay Water and Regional Solutions. Please stop playing politics with the health and safety and pocketbooks of the people of Tampa. Start putting the people of Tampa first. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, City Council. I'm speaking on items 5 and 6 on the agenda. I'm asking you to vote this project down and not provide further funding. My name is B. John Ovink. I'm a founding member of Friends of the River. For over 22 years, I've been advocating for clean, unpolluted fresh water for the minimum flow in the Hillsborough River below the dam. During the past 22 months, with growing frustration, I have been a member of a stakeholders group that has been discussing Mayor Castor's legacy project, PURE. For the past few decades, Tampa has been attempting to transform wastewater into drinking water. You'll remember the Toilet to Tap project. At first draft of PURE looked a lot like TAP. At the suggestion of the stakeholder group, the city employed a consultant to investigate alternatives to TAP. Up to 8 alternatives were eventually proposed. With growing persistence, the city has refused or reluctantly agreed to seriously discuss these alternatives, including other possible solutions such as advocating conservation, postponing the deadline, or joining with other state water departments in amending the legislation. City has never engaged in honest public discussion or unbiased education about alternatives to TAP. It is now obvious to me that the city has never been interested in pursuing any option other than TAP. Mr. Reamer tells us he's been listening. Listening is nice. Listening does not commit. Listening also means going out in the community, talking to people and telling them about alternatives and listening to their answers. This item is on the agenda because the city is asking for more money, another $1 million and change. Council previously approved funding on specific condition that the city does outreach to the public. To date, no meaningful or unbiased outreach has taken place. Stakeholders consistently have been fed incomplete information. City haven't told you what they've used the money for, and now they want more. For this reason alone, I ask that you refuse further funding. For 22 months, City has been listening to us asking the same 3 questions. You've heard them here today. Is it safe? Is it needed? And how much will it cost? We haven't received any answers other than trust us. And no, Mr. Reamer, it's not the ick factor I object to. I have probably drunk and swam in water with poop in it. For instance, when traveling through Egypt and India, where some 50 years ago I drank tap water that came straight from the Nile or the Ganges. There was virtually no industrialization there at the time. So it's not poop I'm concerned with. Poop gives you the runs, nothing else. It's chemicals, PFAS, hormones, medication that I'm concerned with. There are no drinking water standards for most PFAS, which means the city does not even need to treat for it. And after 22 months of listening, you still haven't given us an answer to the questions how it will be made safe for my granddaughter to drink. I'm opposed to putting treated wastewater in the aquifer into the Hillsborough River without scientific proof it'll be safe for wildlife and humans. Until Pure is shown needed, safe, and affordable, funding for it must be stopped. I ask you to vote this project down. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mary Willimatz, and I'm speaking to items 5 and 6 on the agenda. And my graduate work is in industrial hygiene, and that includes dealing with hazardous materials management. And I also worked for a large, complex healthcare system and part of my job was doing hazardous materials management. And the reason I'm saying this is because I want to talk about hazardous materials and the contaminants. There are some contaminants in the effluent from our wastewater that are hazardous materials. And other people have already talked about it, but the forever chemicals, as their name implies, stays within the tissues of all creatures, people, animals, etc., basically forever. And they are so harmful that the EPA wants the limits to be as close as possible to 0 due to a growing body of research that shows how toxic they are, and that's a quote from an EPA document. Currently, there are no drinking water standards for most forever chemicals, although they have been found in drinking water. Other contaminants of concern are pharmaceuticals, hormones, waste from industries, microbiologicals, and others. And remember, forever chemicals are a group of these as well. The city must protect our citizens from these hazardous materials that are found in sewage effluent and not consider adding such sources of water to the Hillsborough River, the source of our drinking water, or to the aquifer, and ensure that we have credible scientific studies that prove no harm to people, no harm to our wildlife, and no harm to our environment. Vote no on Pure. I also agree with others that Tampa should take the lead among Florida cities and water districts to request an extension to Senate Bill 64 to 2040 at least. This extension will give time for the EPA and/or the DEP to promulgate health, safety, and environmental standards for revisions to existing hazardous materials and for newly identified contaminants. Thank you for your consideration and your time.
Good morning. My name's Teresa Potter. I'm a citizen of Tampa, resident of the city of Tampa, but I'm also the president of the League of Women Voters of Hillsborough County, a member of the stakeholder group. A lot of the press that's been on the Pure project since Monday has pointed out that the opposition is from environmental groups. The League of Women Voters of Hillsborough County and the League of Women Voters in general is more concerned with informing the electorate. Since 1920, the League of Women Voters, and since 1949, the League of Women Voters of Hillsborough County has made it our priority to have our citizens be informed and involved in the decisions and issues that affect them. So I want to thank the City Council for your action in February. I commend you for, instead of fully funding the Pure project and moving forward, that the money that was given at that meeting was directed towards public outreach and analysis of other options and alternatives on this project. I think we all agree it is not just an environmental issue, it is also an oversight and transparency and public outreach issue. So public outreach to some people may mean finding out how many people are for it or against it. As city council members, you get calls and emails and you judge what your citizens are for or against a subject. From our point of view, we want people to know about it. So I judge it by when I'm out in the community talking to people, what the look is on their face when I ask them about something. And you know the look I'm talking about. You either get engagement and questions, or you get a completely blank face because they don't know what you're talking about. So prior to Monday, I didn't talk to a single person that didn't have a blank face when I asked them about the Pure project and gave them some of the details of it. After Monday, I started getting people asking me information about it. I've been a K-12 public education advocate for many years. I talk to a lot of people every day, including a lot of parents in our community. Started getting texts on Monday about the Pure project for the first time. And so then, from my other hat, I have a master's in library science, and in a previous life I was an elementary and high school media specialist and taught classes on information and misinformation and disinformation. So the information that started coming out since Monday, some of it coming from the city as quotes from city staff, was concerning as well. So one of those was addressed by somebody previously who said that the reason that people are against this is because of the ick factor, which I never heard anybody talk about. Another one is that it's not a project. There was a bidding process and staff came to the city asking for funding for this. It is a project. It's just not a fully funded project at this point. For over 20 months, these conversations have been happening. One of the members of the press asked us, they're coming to the city council asking for money for public outreach. Aren't you happy about that? If this was the first $1 million, yes. But there was no conversation there about the $1 million that's already meant to have been spent on that. So it's time to kill this project and work on something else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Valerie Bullock. I'm a resident of East Tampa, and I want to qualify myself before I speak. I got an A wastewater license from DEP, a C drinking water license from DEP. I sat 33 years ago for my state board. I took 2 state boards at the same time, passed them both at the first try. I was sworn in to protect the water, and from that day forward, that's what I've been doing. I still have the same zeal and passion, and this Pure project, it need to be dumped as soon as possible. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. The toilet to tap, it's been around forever. Let's pump it into the aquifer. What happens if something happens and the aquifer was the leak before it's time? Do we have a plan for that? No, I don't think so. And this is nothing but a disaster waiting to happen, just like Piney Point. We sat there and we made all of these excuses, did ring around the wastewater, put it here, put it there. We never dealt with the right issue. Then years later, it comes back and now it's a hot fire. We got to put this out. And what do? We release some of the water into Hillsborough River. Now we got red tide and fish kill everywhere. This project need to be dumped, and the money that's being spent on it, it could be put into something useful. And once again, it's the administration want to push things through because of whatever reason. I don't know if it's nepotism or the money trail go back to the friends, but we have a check and balance in every system, and we got to start using it. This is a waste of taxpayers' money. Wastewater is 99.9% pure like ivory soap. If we treat it properly and we continue to do like we've been doing, we won't have a problem with it. We have DEP, EPA, and Swift Mud monitoring us. The city of Tampa, they have to meet or beat the federal guidelines when it comes to treating the wastewater. And I'm, for like everybody else say, let's take a jump start. Let's ask for a variance. Let's say we'll install this in 2040. Give us time to make some kind of other arrangements. We shouldn't have just one thing. Vote per. Here go $5 million. Vote for per. I like choices. Let's see what the alternatives are. Let's see, since we got the wastewater plan already working, let's see what we can do to make that better, to fortify it so that it'll be around long enough. I remember when I was a little girl, they used to have a TV commercial with the Indian out there on the boat, tears going down his eyes from the water getting polluted and contamination. We should be trying to go forward, not backward. And water is the greatest resource that we have, and we need to protect it. That's it.
John Mull, 4104 North Lynn Avenue, Tampa, Florida. I probably lived around that corner for 70 years, so I've seen a lot of changes, you might say. And I've seen a few boondoggles occurring also. If you go up on Crest and you go central, you'll see a big boondoggle going on, trying to get rid of stormwater. Well, I've just heard about Pure. I joined the Friends of the River yesterday, and they told me about this meeting, so here I'm at. Can any of you council people tell me how much my utility bill will go up if this Pure project goes through? I see a lot of stony faces. No answer. I know I was banned from anybody speaking to me because I had litigation before, but I have no litigation before you now, so there's possibility for you to respond if you wish to. I've told that this program is going to be at a minimum $2 billion. You know what the interest is that? At 5% is $100 million a year. Who's going to pay for it? How much is my utility bill going to go up? You're going to tax me out one way or the other? You tried it with stormwater, but I kind of prevailed on that. But I don't know. Does anybody know how high my utility bill is? You can see what it is now. I've mitigated to the fact that I don't use any city water for drinking. I don't use the city sewer, and I don't use stormwater. It can be done, because right there I've done it. So there are other options, but still I'm waiting for how much is my bill going to go up?
I see you.
Or will it go up at all? I suspect that it won't go up at all, because you're going to go out and get a bond, and you're going to put it on the tax bill. And if I don't pay the tax bill, you're going to foreclose. I suspect this is what's going to happen, but I can wait for an answer to how much my utility bill will go up. How long am I going to wait? 3 minutes?
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
Councilman Goode, I was waiting.
Maybe somebody could respond. I mean,
Yeah, Mr. Mull, what I can say, I don't know what it will cost.
Can it be a ballpark?
I don't know what it will cost. I just want to say, again, I like a fighter, And congratulations, your litigation is over, so I would say congratulations for coming here many, many years and being strong to fight to do what you did. And I applaud you for your effort, sir. So I want to say congratulations to that.
Thank you. But can you give me the ballpark figure? Here it is, $39 of almost $40 now. Is it going to be $400 when this thing goes through? Or $4,000? Nobody knows.
Mr. Chair.
Hang on one second, Councilman Carlson. I'm going to go to Councilman Miranda next.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Maul, I just want to congratulate you. I've never seen one that has zeros for a year, all the way down. And you are a true environmentalist, not those that think about it. It's not those that want us to talk about it, but those that do what others talk about. A lot of people talk and they don't do. You do what you think is right, and I admire you for that.
And you do too.
Well, I tried. I'll be honest to God, I tried. But the water department ran me over. I'll tell you why. For 11 months, I had zeros, and I was trying, one of my goals, to have it just like yours, all the way zeros. However, on that 12th month, I got a 1 unit. And I was perturbed at myself, not at the city, for not doing what I said I was going to do. However, I put the bill down, and about a week or so later, I said, let me check that bill again. And I looked at it, and guess what happened? Instead of checking the water on the 30th day, they checked it on the 33rd day. So in my mind, I still don't have a zero, and the water department got me, but it was fair and square. That was when they, in the transition, changing the way they were collecting the meters and reading the meters, and I got caught in that 2-day difference. But I'm not apologetic. I admire what you've done, and your fight. When you fight for something, it's not about winning or losing. It's about doing your best and not to lose.
Thank you.
And few of us do what you've done, and I admire you for that. You are a true environmentalist. I don't want to hear this, that I'm an environmentalist, but I don't have 1 unit of water. I have 10. I don't want to hear that I drive a Cadillac instead of a hybrid or an electric car. And I don't want to hear that I'm spending $900 a month on electricity when you don't have any solar. And I'm not talking about the environmentalists. I'm talking about, in general, the public. I admire for what you've done, and God bless you. And I don't know what the bill's going to be because I don't know what the true cost is.
I hope you vote no. Thank you. Anybody else can tell me what the bill is going to be?
Councilman Carlson.
I want to echo what my colleague just said. Thank you for everything you do to try to save resources. We should have you do a class for all of us in the community so you can teach us how to do that. To answer your question, we don't know. We've been asking for at least 3.5 years. The group around you in the room has been asking, and there's a lot of different answers. When it first came before City Council 3.5 years ago, it was $350 million. And it was included in the PIPES program that was, if I remember correctly, $3.2 billion. And so I made a motion to have the $350 million taken out, and then we would just approve 2.85 for the PIPES program. And then the water department talked and said in the room and came back and said, well, can you only take out 300 million? And so suddenly within a few minutes, the price dropped from 350 to 300 million. So we took that out. The PIPES program for 2.9 billion, if I remember correctly, added to the average water rate about $36 a month. And I think if I remember correctly, the average water rate was about $40 a month at that time. Had we included Pure at that time, it would have increased it another few dollars. And if my numbers are slightly off, apologize to whoever's out there. I'm speaking with COVID head right now. But then we asked them, when they came back to us a year later, we asked them to do a fuller analysis on it and tell us the total cost over 30 years. And there's a presentation which you can watch on video where the consultants came back and said it's of the different alternatives, it's $2.1 to $6.3 billion. And so then a representative of the water department spoke at a neighborhood association. Someone said, isn't it going to cost $6 billion and maybe double our water rates? If you use the same correlation of 2.9 billion for the PIPES program that raised the bill by $36, if it's an average of 3 or 4 billion for the cost of this, that should raise it by $40 or $50 a month. And those are just my rough behind the napkin calculations. But the water department person laughed and said, no, it'll cost several hundred million. So I pointed that out in a city council meeting, and I got a scathing letter from the department, which you can see, which said that I'm misleading the public because I'm telling the public the total cost instead of just the capital cost, and that I've been educated that the industry standard is to only use capital costs instead of total costs. And I have worked around engineers for a long time, and I know that that's not true. And so the truth is that we don't know. If you saw the recent press this week, the water department now is saying, we don't know the cost, so we're not going to comment on it, because they know those numbers are out there. The reality is we didn't have an honest alternatives analysis, and we probably won't again with the configuration the way it is. But if you just look at the estimates that were given us before and compare that to pipes, my rough estimate is somewhere between $40 and $50 a month for the average user. You may not pay extra, but an average user would.
Thank you, sir.
Just maybe I could respond a little bit. They talk about the aquifer, where this is going to be pumped. My understanding is there's 3 aquifers, the shallow, the Floridian aquifer, and then there's a brine aquifer. Where is actually the aquifer that it's going to be pumped? Because I use well water. I'd hate for my shallow well to be contaminated. Right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. If I see no one else getting up, Ms. Lockett will be the last speaker in chambers for public comment. I'm sorry?
Ms. Vila will be the last.
Okay, Ms. Vila will be.
Good morning, council. My number 1 issue is still housing. I was sitting in here and didn't know anything about Pure, just heard, remnants of it. And because I didn't know anything about it, my question was just like the League of Women Voters, the community outreach. How much has been done, not just with the numbers, but really education in regards to full process. What ifs? What if this works? What if this doesn't work? What's your backup plan in case it doesn't? So I have a lot of questions now in regards to this Pure project. And if everyone back here has questions, people that's on television will have questions, I think that is fair, because it's the people's money, that you guys either dismantle and redo it, or come to a consensus of redoing something, or slow it so that everything can be, we talk about transparency. We always talk about transparency. And if the administration has it where they cannot answer a question from the community, then that's a problem. When they avoid a question, an answer from about a question, that's a problem. So I'm just here to say that I've heard community outreach, reassurance, regulations are concerned. We see it today. Regulations are one thing 1 minute, and then they're lessened or down the line. So how can people feel safe, and even in the poor communities? So there'll be mistrust in everything. So why do such a big project when there's questions about it, which garner mistrust within the communities? Not community, but communities, right? So that's my input about that. But my number 1 issue is still housing. So I'll see you guys soon about that. But thank you for listening.
Mr. Chairman?
Good.
Ms. Lockett, come back to it. Ms. Lockett, come back to it. The strength you have to be here today, my condolences to you and your family.
Don't make me cry.
I know. But,
I
I always give people their flowers while they're here. And I know you were going to be here today, but I have something special for you right now. I believe it's special, and I believe my colleagues would agree, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion for accommodation to community activist Robin Lockett, presented on November 8th, for your continued Ellison work, and God bless you and your family.
Motion made by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Hurtak. All in favor? Aye. Is there any opposed? Thank you.
Sit up.
Good morning. I'm
Good
Sandy
morning.
Sanchez, Armory Gardens community, home of the mosquito-infested Villa Brothers Park, and I brought Martha Vila to speak to you today.
Good morning, City Council. Good morning, Guido Maniscalco, our representative, and all of you distinguished members of the City Council for the year 2022. I bet you're surprised to see me here. But you know, here I am continuing to do battle for this unique story about the family of 14 children, 7 boys and 7 girls, all born and raised in our West Tampa backyard. And I know soon you're going to be asking me how old I am. So I'm going to tell you, if next year in August the park is finished, we can all meet there to celebrate my 90th birthday. And you can again hear the story of Willie and Joe and Hector and Wilfred. I can't forget anybody. Wilfred, Robert, Dino, and Tony. These brothers gave almost 50 years of their life total in combat duty, willing to give all for yours and my freedom. Their mother, Carmen, promising never to eat bread again for the safe return of her sons, and her prayers were answered when on July the 4th of 2005, all the 7 brothers were present at the dedication of this park. Today, only 5 brothers live. Today, only 2 brothers live. 5 have passed away. It was quite a moving day and a proud day for our city of Tampa to introduce these men who so eloquently represented our freedom. Although I come to you in appreciation for all the support the special city council has given, I also come to you somewhat embarrassed to be seeking answers to the same questions we have asked for so very many times. When will the park be completed? How many different answers we have been given to the same question. Is it so difficult? It requires so much time and effort to complete this particular project. The city of Tampa has done these parks numerous times, and before it has not taken 17 years. Certainly, we are overdue for a true answer. Action speaks louder than words, and no action speaks a true statement. Finally, 4 months ago, there was excitement when a crew came to the park with machinery and began to tear down the basketball court. It appeared that work had started. In addition to the small work, though, that only destroyed the basketball court, there's been left a mud puddle for mosquitoes to breed for the last 6 months, untouched and uncared for. The Armory Garden civic community that surrounds this park and its great board with President Sandy Sanchez has been a strong voice for the park. The community has grown so very much and is surrounded with vibrant young families with children seeking and needing a place to grow, learn, play, and be free. Why has this project been left so neglected? Thank you, Sandy, for your faithfulness. In last year's budget, thanks to Mayor Castor and the City Council, $1.7 million was allocated to complete the park with promise that the work would start as soon as possible. We are here 1 year later with the fact that really nothing has been done or accomplished. To our Honorable Mayor Jane Castro, many thanks for the park's honor you acknowledge and extended to the Vila family in your support for this park, as well as all the courtesies your administrative staff has shown to us. But the question still remains unknown for the answer. No will is attached to this question, only pride and respect for our leaders, you who carry heavy load for our peace and enjoyment of this wonderful city we call home. Please accept this plea for a truthful answer. but we are ready for a full birth of this wonderful patriotic, waving its colors of red, white, and blue, not only for the 7 brothers, but for all those that have served and for the generations that will continue to serve in defense of our freedom. This park, when completed, is certain to become the home of the free because of the brave. Filled with the air of freedom when you enter its grounds, the colors of red, white, and blue waving our beautiful flags of stars and stripes. We ask God grant this world peace and that this park serve as a symbol of freedom to our wonderful city of Tampa. Hope to see you at the park, but until then, God bless America.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mrs. Vila. You shouldn't feel embarrassed. I think the whole process is an embarrassment. That we're here today, that the park is not completed, because being here for the last 7.5 years, I've seen when something has a deadline and someone or whatever wants it to get done, it gets done. My favorite point of reference is Julian B. Lane Park, which was $30-something million, which was a complete renovation of a park, and it had a deadline of Mother's Day. And I was there because I have the photos and the videos when the mayor was in the backhoe, whatever it was, to do the groundbreaking. And again, that Mother's Day weekend was the deadline, and that's when we were there. And the park was almost to full completion, but it was open to the public. This is an existing park, because I've driven by Vila Brothers Park. I remember the dedication back, 2005? When all 7 brothers were alive under the Iora administration. I did what I was asked to do, which was try to get the money in the budget. I got the money in the budget with the graciousness of the administration, the $1.7, $1.8 million to complete it. I voted for the budget. We passed the budget. The fiscal year ends September 30th and begins October 1st. That was 2021, October 1st. And we're approaching, we have our second budget hearing this week on Tuesday for the next budget. Okay, so there's no excuse that this should be held up. I understand that there's been COVID. I understand the catchphrase supply chain issues. This is a park. These are materials that are being sourced within the United States. Local contractors, I would assume. You know, you have come here many times. I've been to your house. The mayor's been to your house. We've had community meetings. I've spoken with Ms. Sandy Sanchez, other people in the neighborhood that have been on top of this. You know, as you say, you're turning 90 years old, and may you live to be 100 and more. But time is of the essence. We need to get this done. We've been there, you and I, many of us, for Veterans Day celebrations, other celebrations in the park. And it's wonderful because so many people drive by. I drive by every day, across from the JCC, another wonderful project. And the name Vila Brothers, that means so much to this community and the sacrifice that they made. But I have an update list, that we should stick by. October 2022, installation of court fencing and lighting, installation of west property line fence. November, ongoing site work. We're not stopping. December, coordination with landscape, irrigation, and electrical. January, installation of playground and shelters to begin, which have already been ordered from my understanding, 4 months ago, maybe around April. So what's the holdup there with the supply chain if they've already been ordered? February, installation of dog park fencing, fountains, and artificial turf, installation of other equipment, picnic tables, trash receptacles, and benches, modification to entry gates. March 2023, completion and ribbon cutting. March 2023, completely finished with the ribbon cutting. I know your birthday's coming up after and we can celebrate then, but we have to get this park done. Yeah. I've seen it with other projects. I've seen it with other deadlines being met. There's no excuse. If not, remember, March 7, 2023 is Election Day. Okay. And take it to the ballot box, because what? We've done our due diligence at City Council, trying to get the funding, which we got the funding. We need to get this done. Again, time is of the essence. I want you to be there. I want your 2 brother-in-laws to be there, the remaining Vila brothers, so they can see it, and we can enjoy this part. Thank you.
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you very much. No, I just wanted to say hi to Martha. I love you to death. You're such a sweetheart. And you know that the city of Tampa always honors your family and your service. And today, in fact, 72 years ago, Lieutenant Baldomero Lopez gave all in Incheon in Korea and would go on, obviously after his death, to get the Medal of Honor. I believe the first person from Tampa to get that. So, you know, in our Hillsborough County area, we have over 100,000 veterans who are here in Hillsborough County. We are a very patriotic county, a very patriotic city, and we always remember your family, including your wonderful Hector, who rests now at Florida National Cemetery at Bushnell. I know you're always so proud of him. Just to say that we love you, I love you, the city of Tampa loves you, and I know we're all going to fight for this to happen. And thank you, Martha. God bless you. Dios te bendiga.
I have cards here that are unusual because it has a picture of the 7 brothers. If anybody would like some to feel welcome. And I don't know if I'm going to put up the picture that was taken for the 7 brothers. We're going to have to bring it down. Bring it down. My husband's favorite saying, that it was his duty to his country to love it, to support its constitution, to obey its laws, and to respect its flag, and to defend her in all duties, foreign and domestic. That was his belief. It's our duty to love our country and respect it. I hope to see you all in August of next year, but before that in March, because I will be back again. I'm not giving up. Thank you very much.
Councilman Carlson.
Chair.
Councilman Carlson.
Ms. Vila, I'm sorry that you've had to go through this. I know it's been a long time, and you and others have described the problems. All I can do is apologize that I didn't work harder to try to get this done. I know we've all, several of us on council have been pushing for years. And it's really despicable that 2 administrations have used this as a political football. This is a park that honors specific veterans, but also all veterans. And I would just appeal to the humanity of the administration, to the ethics of the administration, to please get this done. Here's a widow practically begging us to get this park done, and it should have been done under the last administration. This is our chance to fix this, but let's not be disrespectful anymore. I'm sorry that they've used this as a political football. We really need to get this done, and I will always continue to show this cup to recognize and talk about the park, and look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
We love you, Ms. Vila.
I love you all.
Thank you.
God loves you, and Hector loved and respected all of you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 3 speakers online. Ms. Pointer, are you there? Ms. Pointer, are you with us? Are you muted, Ms. Pointer? Let's go to Ms. Carol Ann Bennett. Ms. Bennett, are you there?
Hi, my name is Carol Ann Bennett. I'm a lifelong resident of Tampa. I'm here to ask you to say no to continuance on Pure and to say no to Pure itself. FAN took a vote of its membership, and not a single neighborhood association, not one, said that they wanted this to be continued. Not one said that they wanted more funding. I am one of the stakeholders in the Pure group representing FAN. In February, that group reluctantly and hesitantly and too trustingly spoke in favor of spending $1 million on checking alternatives and educating the public. And then we were sandbagged in July with requests to double that budget with nothing to show for the first million and no accounting for it. We were told the money was gone. Then later we were told only 400,000 had been spent, but that the work product of that 400,000 was so poor that we had to start over again. They also said that the staff and members of the public had seen the work product and agreed. I have yet to find one member of the public who saw that work product. We've asked to see it and we still haven't seen it. When they asked for more money in July, they said, you told us you wanted us to do an analysis of alternatives and public outreach. So we're needing this $2 million to do what you asked for, completely ignoring the fact we already gave them $1 million to do it. There is one method that they are interested in doing, putting it in the reservoir, putting it in the lower river, putting it in the aquifer. They say it over and over and over again. And then they compare that to what the cities out west do. The cities out west use reverse osmosis and UV. It's not the same thing. And they have an arid climate. They're not subtropical. Their needs are different than ours. I have a real problem with the fact that the company who's going to build this is also the company that they've hired to analyze what's the best option. What could go wrong? I don't know. Maybe they're going to choose the option that's best for them instead of the option that's best for us. We had an analysis from Juturna that only cost $100,000, and it wasn't perfect, but it was a heck of a lot cheaper than $1 million. That analysis said the preferred method would cost $3.4 billion. We keep hearing about this $10,000 fine. It would take over 900 years to spend $3.4 billion for those fines to equal $3.4 billion. This is a legacy project of Bob Buckhorn. We don't need it. We don't want it. The neighborhood associations say no, no, 1,000 times no. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pointer, are you online? Ms. Pointer.
Ms. Pointer, I believe your device.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Now we can, yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Sorry about that. I read the entire agenda, as I try and do every week, and I published a cheat sheet on the Dan Webb Facebook page, so check it out. It's for your viewing pleasure. Let's talk about item number 70, the Ethics Commission report. Section 2-651, Independent Decision Making Group. 5 members are nominated to this group, the Ethics Commission. The Hillsborough County Bar Association nominates 2, Stetson University nominates 1, the Dean of USF or UT nominates another, and the mayor gets 1 pick. Yet, there was nearly $125,000 spent last year investigating the ethics of 2 of our city councilmen without going before this commission. How do I know this? Well, Ms. Bricklemeyer, the chair of that commission, said in April that they hadn't had any ethics complaints in 4 years. Who ordered the expenditure of $125,000 of our tax dollars if the ethics folks did not? Why have an independent body when they aren't being utilized as the independent body that they are? I'd ask our council members to make a motion that city funds not be spent on ethics investigations in the future without the request of this commission. It seems like a simple solution to a huge problem that's been created over the last year. I'd also like to see a second motion that there is an amendment to section 2-651 that says if one of these establishments are unable to nominate someone, that choice be moved to the city council instead of the mayor. That way, it is totally equitable. Pure, we spent $400,000 of our money, tax dollars. We're not happy with it, but we want $2 million more. Poor stewardship of our money, to say the least. I would love to see what $400,000 looks like. I've never spent $400,000 on anything before. Is it an inch thick file or is it a 6-inch file? I don't know. But I do know that I don't like to see our money wasted. $400,000 is 2/3 of the sidewalk budget for this year and last year, each separately. the stormwater plans on 7 and 8. I'd like to thank Jean Strohmeyer for working her butt off with those folks to make this look like a beautiful part of a natural park, not a square box to hold water in. And protect 13 and 14, I think we need this protection for city council and all of our elected officials to keep them from being sued frivolously. Number 58, you know, it was taken off the agenda, which kind of shocked me because I thought it kind of answered one of Ms. Hurtak's, or Councilwoman Hurtak's issues last week. And I support the Vila Brothers Park just for GP. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Ms. Strohmeyer, are you with us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Jean Strohmeyer, Interbay South of Gandy Neighborhood Association, and I'm on the road, so I don't have my agenda to speak to all the things that I wanted to speak on, but I'll go ahead and, voice my public opposition to Pure or the continuance of that. And I also wanted to give my support, so long as, if for my ELAP, my beautiful ELAP park, the preserve in Interbay South of Gandy, as long as that goes according to our negotiations and it goes according to the plan that we all sat down with the community and agreed to, then I just want to support that. And thanks to the Valerian Group and to what's the construction? I can't think right now. I'm on the road, but thanks to John Zimina and Councilman Carlson for Pure and for helping support our park, and y'all please support that. And that's the Lower Peninsula, and us having a really nice park for the community. If it was my way, I would have kept it the woods and rough, but it's not all about me. So anyway, y'all have a great day, and I'll see you later.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? Thank you. We'll now go to agenda item number 5. I'm sorry, 4. Ms. Feely.
Good morning, Council. Abby Feely, Deputy Administrator, Development and Growth Management, and I believe through the power of technology, J.C. Hutchinson, our building official, is remote in from Kentucky. He's coming back from the International Code Council conference this morning. But here today just to give you a brief update on some additional changes we're going to make at the Construction Services Division. I've heard from many of you over the past months in relation to permitting, taking additional time, numbers of comments coming in, and starting October 1, we are going to be implementing what we're referring to as a sufficiency checklist. And that will really start to change the intake that's coming into the department. Right now, one of the examples I gave you a couple months ago was that permit may come in, it may be missing its energy calculations, it may be missing its Florida product approval, it may be missing its mechanical plan, but we have been taking those permits in and then asking for those items as part of the first review. We are going to now require those items before they are accepted in as a permit in order to stop that cycle of asking for those items and making sure the permits are more sufficient for both our clients and for our team in order to be able to more effectively do those reviews. The other thing is, in terms of these reviews, a permit review, when you get to the third review, there's an additional fee associated with that. And we believe that by employing this and bringing in a better product at the onset, that we will be reducing those numbers of third reviews and being able to save our customers money and save our team's time. So I think it'll end up being a win-win. We're going to start messaging this in the next 2 weeks through our Acela program and our clients to let them know what is forthcoming. But we just wanted to let you know what was forthcoming before that October 1 implementation time. So here today, happy to answer any questions. Hey, JC. And JC also, if you have anything you'd like to ask, but we're continuing to improve those process. I know you supported us with the construction activity compliance team. That team last year was only We had about 100 stop work orders last year. Since we've put the CACT in, we're doing about 100 stop work orders a month, which are allowing us to capture permits that were not being applied for within the city. So JC is doing a great job. Just wanted to come and share that information with you this morning, and always available should you have any questions.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I just want to say thank you for this. I know your team's working really hard on it, and just the fact that folks are going to have a checklist before they even get started is wonderful. I know you've been working hard on trying to implement these types of programs, and I just thank you to you and your team. I know you wanted to get in front of us now so that we could get the public to learn about this program, and I hope that we're going to send out things with communication to the communications team, because this is really critical, and it really helps the public, but what it really does is help staff time, so they don't have to review it a third time. Truly appreciate it. Thank you, and I look forward to maybe an update in 6 months that tells us how it's going.
Absolutely.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you were trying to facilitate and help the system, but what happened, the same people you were facilitating didn't do their part. Not all of them, but most of them. Therefore, you had the backlog and the changes and whatever we had to do to get the items off the agenda. So I appreciate what you're trying to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilman Goods.
Long time coming. We talked about it a long time. I'm glad we're going to implement something. I just want to make sure that we get as much communications out to these folks. We know it's going to be a bump in the road because people say, well, that's one way you always done it, but sometimes change is good. So just make sure we get a good, robust communication going on, and it definitely will help our docket from being here late at night and 15, 16 cases. So I just applaud you for trying to get this moving. Thank you, JC.
Ms. Feely, you've worked hard on this. Thank you for listening to mine and the other council members' concerns. Let's hope this works out and works for everybody. Thank you, Ms. Feely.
Thank you.
All right. Now let's open agenda item number.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Carlson.
I have a question for the Chief of Staff if he's still there.
He is left.
Well, I'll go ahead and state this. Maybe he can come up. I want to let my colleagues know and the public know, for several weeks now, I've been asking the administration to call a halt to the attacks against city council members. And we've gathered documented evidence now that the mayor's staff have been colluding, doing opposition research against council members, coordinating with opponents of council members, setting council members up against each other, celebrating attacks against city council members, et cetera. And you all may have been briefed about that in part, but last week there was another attack against former council member John Dingfelder that resulted in at least one story. We found that there was an additional outside investigation that was done, and this one cost $23,000. I don't know if my legislative aide is there, but she has 3 pages that I'd like to pass out if she's available. The first one is the contract that, or the letter to proceed with the for the investigation of former council member, and the second 2 are copies of and highlights of the charter which I reviewed when City Attorney Zellman was confirmed a couple weeks ago. There's no. First, I'd like to call for the attacks against City Council to end, and I'd like the leaks to stop and the behind-the-scenes attacks to stop. Second, Ms. Zellman, who's now online, I see confirmed in her confirmation that City Council by charter is one of her clients. The previous City Attorney approved this review that you all are seeing, and so it was under a different head, not Ms. Zellman. But it could be that the last City Attorney didn't think that City Council was a client. Attacking a former City Council member hurts the City Council itself. By Florida bar rules, there should be no investigation or attack of a City Council member without having some kind of heads up about that. I at least was not given a heads up about this investigation. I was not given a heads up about the prior investigations before they were done. I especially was not given a heads up about the $140,000 or so that was paid to 2 different law firms to investigate and attack Councilmember Gibbons. There could be investigations going on of any of us that we wouldn't be aware of right now. There's nothing in the charter that says that they have the right to keep this information from us. And more importantly, there's nothing in the charter that gives the city attorney the sole right to approve doing investigations like this. The city attorney and the mayor do not have the right by charter to approve contracts without city council approval, and they don't have the right to approve these expenditures without city council approval. And now we've had $200,000 or more of outside resource, not to mention whatever the internal resource has been, to investigate and attack city council members. I would just call on the administration to stop these attacks and for the mayor to apologize. Any reasonable administration, if the mayor was not personally involved and not personally directing this, any reasonable administration would step up, be horrified by this, stop it, probably let some people go, change the processes so this doesn't happen, and then work to rebuild relationships with city council. I would ask that we bring on the agenda, I'd like to make a motion that we bring on the agenda for October 6th during administrative update for the chief of staff to explain why these investigations go on without city council approval, why contracts are being passed without city council approval, and why expenditures are being made without city council approval when the charter does not allow that. Further, I'd like the chief of staff to explain the mayor's position on whether the mayor is willing to call a halt to these attacks or not. I'm not asking for a legal opinion now. I just wanted to put that on the agenda. So that's my motion for October 6th.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes. Ms.
And
Selman.
I apologize, like Councilman Carlson, I'm getting over, well, I'm ahead of him. I think I'm getting over COVID. I'm at the stage where I have to wear a mask. So rather than try to speak to you through a mask in the chambers, I thought I'd stay in my office and appear virtually. Councilman, I would ask you, you keep talking about attacks on councilmen. We've listened to you over and over again attack Gina Grimes, attack the administration. And I, again, when I talked about a reset, I meant for all of that to stop. I mean, we don't gain anything talking to each other that way. I tried to talk with you in more detail in person, but we weren't able to do that, or by phone, I should say. But just let me briefly explain to those listening.
I'd rather, Mr. Chair,
Councilman Carlson, can you please let Ms. Selman have the opportunity to speak?
And I also don't appreciate that comment because I've asked for the administration to draw a line and say stop. But once the mayor apologizes, I will stop bringing up these highlights. But as long as they continue like they did last week, I'm going to highlight it for the public because the public is fed up with it. We need it to stop.
Well, let me just say this.
Ms. Selman, can you please finish, please?
Investigation of the allegations against Mr. Dingfelder were never intended to be an attack on him. When Gina was still in office and the litigation was ongoing, she received a letter from the attorney representing Mr. Michelini that outlined several alleged violations of state law and the city ethics code that he had uncovered, or he alleged he had uncovered, in the text messages and emails provided by Mr. Dingfelder. When our office reviewed Mr. Dingfelder's text messages and emails, we too discovered what we believed to be violations of the city ethics code. Around that same time, Mr. Dingfelder resigned. Our office was faced with the question about whether we had an obligation to report those allegations to the state or to anybody. It was a murky question we were unclear about. Ms. Grimes contacted the Florida Bar. Their advice was to have an outside counsel do an investigation. We also spoke with the county attorney and others in local government, and they said the same thing, that it shouldn't be our office answering the question. We should go ahead and ask an outside counsel to do it. Ms. Grimes informed John that she was going to do that at the time. So that was the investigation that was conducted. If you look at the report, and it's in two parts, and there's one letter where basically the outside counsel that we retained answered the question we asked him, which was, given that Mr. Dingfelder has resigned, does our office have any ongoing obligation to report these alleged violations to some other authority? Because the outside counsel, former Judge Holder, concluded that we did not, that ended that investigation. The second part of the report arose because after his resignation, former Councilman Dingfelder contacted some city employees about a development project with which he originally said he had a client, then he said it was a friend, but in any event, he was asking to meet with city employees. Our office regularly counsels people who have left the city about what they can and cannot do once they leave office. We told Councilman Dingfelder what the city ethics code said about that. He continued to disagree with us, and we said, you know, we've already retained outside counsel. We'll have them prepare a legal opinion outlining what the city ethics code says about post-employment contact with the city. That's the sum and substance of the investigation of the report that was prepared by Judge Holder. I think it's very straightforward. I'm glad to answer more questions about it, but there was no intent to further embarrass Councilman Dingfelder, to do anything negative toward him. Our office felt we were obligated by actually the Florida bar rules to determine whether we had some obligation to do anything further with regard.
You said at the time last week, quote, Dingfelder seems to have.
Councilman Carlson, let me go to our attorney, Mr. Shaw.
Well, can I say one more thing? I think
Ms.
I know
Zelman,
what
please.
you're asking about.
Ms. Zelman, please, 1 second, 1 second, please. Mr. Shelby.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. I have been very quiet during this meeting, and I've been my first meeting back since my leave. It's been several weeks and certainly several meetings. But I have to say, Mr. Chairman, that I have been very respectful of your role and council's role with regard to how this meeting is to be conducted. And I have not interrupted with regard to the rules of procedure which govern the council's rules, and that is done for consistency and for fairness and for transparency to everybody. And I have to share, Mr. Chairman, my concern to determine what my role is subsequent to my coming back versus previous to my coming back, because I'm concerned that now we're talking about an off-agenda item. We have been taking off-agenda items this morning.
Thank you.
We have been doing motions on off-agenda items this morning. Normally, those are done under new business.
Thank you.
There's an orderly way to be able to conduct your meetings and to be able to do them fast and efficiently and get to the public's business. It is approaching 11:30. We have 9:30 public hearings.
Thank you, Mr. Shelby.
We have not done any official business that's on the agenda, official action, and it is now 9:30 public hearings have been set, and we can change these rules of procedure. These are your rules. This is your meeting, and certainly my job is to be able to support the city council. And I just want to be able to find out, and if I have to talk,
Councilman Carlson, please.
If I have to talk individually to council members, or we could set a special discussion meeting, I need direction from city council about the way, what my role is, so I can support you in conducting your meetings efficiently. The rules of procedure do need to be updated, but frankly, I just want to be able to be clear that in order to get to the public's business in a timely fashion, especially when you have two meetings set in the same day, if you had, I just want to express my concern. I'm not taking any position one way or the other. We can get to that further down the road, but I just want to be clear as to what my role is, because I want to be respectful of council, yet you have your rules of procedure, and my role has traditionally been to bring them to your attention to make sure that they are consistently and transparently adhered to.
Thank you. Councilman Carlson, last word, and then we'll go to Ms. Zelman to finish that.
So I have a motion on the floor. I think it was seconded, and I'd just like to vote on that to bring it back October 6th. My intent was not to have a long discussion about this today.
Ms. Zelman, you wanted to add something?
That's fine. We can wait.
Thank you very much. I would we have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Goods. Roll call. Any further discussion? Councilman Maniscalco.
I'm not going to support it because, as I said several weeks ago when I called for a ceasefire, I'm sick and tired of this drama, this fighting. Netflix hasn't called to offer us a miniseries at this point with all this drama. That's clearly a joke, but we have to move forward together. What's been done in the past, allegedly, yes, no, the mayor, here, there, whatever, we can't go back in time. We have to put it to bed. I like to be friends with everybody. I think I'm friends with most people. I can't tell you that I have an enemy, and people have done good and bad things to me. I try to get along with folks so we can move forward together. I'm just tired of this drama. I want to get things done. I want to serve the public and the community. We have Vila Brothers Park. We have so many other pressing issues. We have Pure. We have so many other discussion items on this agenda today. I'm not going to waste time continuing to fight, whether I go to the mayor myself, I sit down with other council members, try to mediate. It's not my job to do so, but we are better than this. We have to move forward together as a unified body and just get the work of the people done. Thank you.
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And you know, council members have a right to be heard, have a right to make motions, have a right to ask questions. And my issue with this motion is that it's loaded with a number of accusations that I have that we haven't seen the background on. I don't want to vote for something that's loaded like that. What I would respectfully suggest is to my colleague is that whenever the administration update comes, they have received the questions, they have received your statement, they should be ready to answer it so it can be done. But to have a formal motion that would have, by virtue of supporting it, council adopt it, I think is something that would be troublesome. I do also agree respectfully with Councilman Maniscalco. I understand there's past grievances. I understand that there are concerns, and I want to respect the voices of all of us in that regard. But I continue to stress the term de-escalation. I've done that myself, which is that whenever there are disagreements on council, I try to stay in my own lane whenever it comes to that, and try to be as I always try to be, which is as civil, as amicable, et cetera, as I can. So again, with regards to Councilman Carlson's concerns, I would respectfully say that by voting for this, there are a number of allegations in there that we would be adopting, but that this can be addressed. That is, you can have the issues addressed at next week's meeting during the administration update. So again, just meeting the concerns of Councilman Carlson in an effort to be collegial, but I think that this motion is very, very loaded in my opinion. Thank you, sir.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I see both sides. I do agree that we need to move forward, but if there are changes we need to make to clarify things, which I think is at the heart of what he's asking for, because this is from the charter. So I think that we should talk about this during the charter workshop on September 22nd. I think it's another thing that we need to bring. I have heard the questions. There is not clarity in some of these sections. So I agree with that. Let's bring it up in the charter workshop. Let's discuss it there. I will support this motion just because I agree that there are some items that need clarity. And I'm going to look at it from that point. And I don't feel like we're ever going to move forward until we have clarity.
Mr. Chair.
Miranda.
Thank you very much. Mr. Maniscalco just about took all the words that I was going to say. We are a bad baseball team because you can't win because we want to argue about who's going to bat first and second. This is not a baseball game. This is not a football game. These are the lives of 400,000 people. When you continue to bring it up and you threaten to say, I'm going to call the authorities, and oh damn authorities have showed up, that means you haven't done it yourself. The only one to know the truth here are the two individuals that were mentioned. Not I, not anyone else. Not anyone here in this room, not anyone in this whole city but the two individuals. You're the only one to know the story. Because if I was guilty, I would resign. If I wasn't guilty, I'd mortgage my house to prove that I was not guilty. That was how I was brought up. So once you resign, I don't know how or why or whatever. I'm not here to cast stones on anyone. But I'm not going to let the city get run down week after week after week on innuendos. And I want to have this and I want to do that. And this guy did that. And I don't care about the guy who wrote a damn thing about me on the internet. I don't even look at the internet. And I think everybody knows who I'm talking about. So what I'm saying is, let's stop playing politics. They talk about politics, stop it. On both sides. This is a city that's got to continue to go forward. We have a lot of things to do because we're a city on the move. That doesn't mean we're leaving. That means we're growing. And no city in today's prize that you have in America that's satisfied with where they're at is a city that's losing population and is dying. And there's a lot of them, including San Francisco. So what I'm saying is, let's get the marbles together. There's an agenda here. You want to argue with somebody? Go file a lawsuit if you think you're right. Let me tell you about me. If I'm accused of a crime, there's an item on this agenda about somebody paying insurance for me. Nobody's going to pay insurance for me because I'm going to vote against it. Because if I did a crime, I should do the time. That's all I'm going to tell you. Thank you very much. And I'm only talking about me.
Quickly, please.
Mr. Chairman, and this is Ms. Zellman. Ms. Zellman, are you still online? There's a motion on the floor and a second. Is that correct? Do you need that?
That is correct.
Do you need that motion? Could you restate that motion, please? If
Carlson. Councilman
Can
Carlson,
I-
could you repeat it?
Mr. Chair, can I change the motion? Can I,
First-
as I don't
first-
remember the whole thing I said.
Well, you're going to have to take back the motion you made and then restate your new motion.
Okay, I'd like to withdraw the prior motion and then.
Excuse me 1 second. Does that second also agree with that?
Sure.
Okay, now restate your motion.
And then make a new motion to put on the agenda for the workshop date where we will be discussing charter amendments to discuss why or if the city attorney or other parties in the city should be able to approve contracts and pay payments to outside parties without council approval.
I mean, I'll second if I'll second for the charter for workshop. Yeah, I'll second it.
Are you finished, counsel?
yes, but there's one thing about what Mr. Carlson said that I'd like to ask Ms. Zellman to do in preparation for that because it's relevant, and it goes to what Ms. Hurtak was saying. Ms. Zellman, we talked about the policy of a previous city attorney, Sal Torito, and a memo that he had put out. I think that's relevant to the discussion. Would you agree?
Yeah, I believe you're talking about the city attorney's ability to settle lawsuits. I believe that's already scheduled for discussion in November, but I don't necessarily object to discussing it at the time of the charter workshop. We can hopefully clear up a lot of misunderstandings about these topics.
Okay. Would it be possible for you to forward that to the city council in advance? Or because I know you forwarded it to me recently, you forwarded it to me yesterday. Is that possible to do?
The legal opinion
Yes,
that was
please.
prepared in 2015, certainly.
I think it was 2018, actually, after the budget, after the charter review. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Goods.
I second it, but I always want to make something clear. When she was appointed, I made my statements. I said what I had to say. I'm done with it. I have legal counsel. I have a legal team. I'm here because I know I've done nothing wrong. Period. So I'm done with it. And we'll deal with those situations personally outside with my legal team when the time comes to meet with the city or any other individuals. So you make that clear. I'm done with it here. I'm here for the people's business. People chose me to do a job. No matter people attack me, I'm going to do my job. All the other stuff, we'll deal with it with our legal team. Thank you, Chair.
Anyone else? There's been accusations made. We have a representative from a Pulitzer Prize-winning newspaper present. We have a representative from an Emmy award-winning news channel here in Tampa. We have different media. Nobody's run with it. We have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Goods. Run with it. Roll call vote.
Goods,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Miranda,
No.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
and Citro.
No.
Motion carried with Maniscalco, Miranda, and Citro voting no.
I'm confused.
Yeah, if I may, wasn't this merely to add an issue for discussion? Okay, just making sure, thank you, yeah, I'm fine with discussing.
Mr. Shelby. And I would like to thank you for mentioning our rules and procedures.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you like me then to,
Set up a time when we can review our rules and procedures.
okay,
Thank you, Mr. Shelby.
thank you.
Now, can we get on to, we're going to be breaking, because we have a 1:30, we're going to be breaking at noon, and there's all these people out in front of us that are waiting to get the city business done. Let's get to work. Agenda item number 5.
Good morning, City Council. Jean Duncan, Administrator of Infrastructure and Mobility. We're here today for the continuance request for the item related to the Pure project. Clearly, you had heard many public comments this morning about this project, and we certainly have had every intention of getting a really robust public engagement plan in place to get ahead of the public's concerns, and we regret that that has not been the case. But today, we're basically asking that this multifaceted, complex situation we have of need is given a little more time. And let me just put a quick view of the problem on the Elmo. We started this conversation with the need to talk about the problems we have to solve. If I could get the Elmo, please.
Can we please have the Elmo, the overhead?
We love technology.
Yes, we do.
I'll just start without it. The main problems we're trying to solve are maintaining healthy river flows. We need a certain amount of water to flow into the lower Hillsborough River below the dam to keep our fish alive, our seagrasses growing, our manatees visiting. We have to drought-proof our water supplies. There's limitations on what we can buy from others, such as Tampa Bay Water. We have to self-supply a certain amount. We haven't had a drought in a long time, so we don't think we're like California. We don't think we're like Colorado River. But there is climate change, and no one knows exactly if that's going to be an extreme of drought, an extreme of flooding, or back and forth. So we have to be prepared and look to the future. And our third problem we need to solve is the state law. Maybe the state law will go away and it won't need to be met, but currently that is the law, and our protocol is to follow laws and regulations, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So those problems are very multifaceted, as I said, they're very complex. They take many years to solve. So we're not going to be solving this in the next year or two. It's going to take us several years. And it's not a Tampa issue. It's a multi-agency issue. It's a regional issue. We've got to work with SwiftMud, the Department of Environmental Protection, EPA, and Tampa Bay Water, and we've got to work together. We also need to work with Hillsborough County. We have what we call the one water approach now. And one water is that we have one water source. We have one water cycle. It's a closed water cycle. As we all know from probably third grade science, the water gets evaporated into the clouds rain back down. We use that water. The water goes into the bays, the rivers, the oceans, goes back up into the sky. So there's only one source of water, and it's not forever. So we feel as the city of Tampa, it's our responsibility to look to the future, to plan ahead, to make the best decisions possible for our citizens. The Tampa Water Department has had a history of 100 years of providing safe, reliable water, and that's what we plan to continue to do. There's no interest on our part whatsoever to do anything that is unsafe. We completely agree with the comments we heard this morning. Safety is the utmost top priority for us, of course, with reliability as well. The EPA does have requirements that they put out that they suggest that we meet. We also have chemical companies that need to do their part and not be disposing these chemicals into the water to put them on the municipalities to have to clean up. But we're working with those agencies. We know EPA is in the process of developing regulations now, and we'll continue to follow any regulations that come along to meet or exceed those. Any alternative that we choose will have any kind of technology that's available. Ion exchange, carbonated filters, reverse osmosis. We're looking, and we will look at all of those options to give the best safe alternative possible. And again, we apologize that the worry and the conversation and the basic human reaction of, I don't want this because I don't understand it. We regret that that's gotten ahead of the process we're trying to follow. We said from the very beginning, from the very first council meeting, when there was a reaction to us jumping too quickly, too fast, we said we would take slow, incremental steps, thoughtful steps. That's what we're trying to do. And if people are frustrated because they don't feel like anything's happened, because we are trying to be thoughtful, we're trying to weigh in opinions as we hear them, we want to weave in the council's requests. So again, I apologize to get on a bit of a soapbox. I just want to give a little context to why we're asking for this continuance. So I'll land with that. We have a continuance of an item that was to add additional expanded alternative analysis to what we had already started to look at solving these three problems. It added expanded and enhanced robust public engagement. You heard the great comments about the McDill 48 Park as part of the Lower Peninsula. We did a great job, obviously, with that public engagement. We've done great public engagement on other projects. We can do that with this project if we just get a chance to get a proper contract in place to do that work. So again, we're asking for a continuance of the item that was continued back in July. The council chose to continue that item back in July, and so here we are today. In the meanwhile, from July, we've realized in talking with the DEP, with Swiftmud, and with Tampa Bay Water, who is seriously interested in this project, that we need more time to get their inputs back. So when we do come back with that amendment, we have all of that technical information baked in, so we get a good start out of the starting gate to proceed forward. So I'll stop there, and I respectfully ask that you consider giving us until at least February of next year to receive those inputs so we can recraft and make some tweaks to the amendment and come back to you to get a better start going forward. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Got several things, so hold. Overwhelmingly, what we've heard from the public today is that they don't want this and they want it to end. So I'm just going to start by saying I do not support continuing this. I just support taking the money off. Let's roll it back. I want to start from the beginning by saying the concerned Tampa residents and organizations such as Sierra Club, the Friends of the River, and the League of Women Voters presented a series of questions about the PURE plan that have yet to be answered. I have passed those 17 questions to all my colleagues this morning. And I am moving. My very first motion is I would like to make a motion to have staff answer the 17 questions from the Friends of the River, and I would like them to come back on December 1st, 2022 to answer these questions in a public forum.
Second.
Can I?
Second.
Yeah, can I just have a, anybody? Before we go any further about the vote on that, the reason for this is because I hear the frustration of the community and giving these questions. And so in order to actually give a deadline, say, let's hear about these questions are very specific. I'll read just a couple and then they will be in the record. for the public to see. But I've even, what I've done is I've actually pulled them out and put them into bulleted questions so that every single question is answered. So the first one is, what remains in the wastewater after it has been treated now? What are the levels of chemicals, metals, PFAS, PROA, hormones, pathogens, and nutrients that are presently contained in and remain in the wastewater after it has been treated at the wastewater treatment plant and presently discharged into Tampa Bay? And when you answer those questions, if you could also spell out the acronyms for people, that would be really helpful. Number 4, how much will PURE cost? Specifically, what are the projected A, construction costs, and B, operating and maintenance costs over the next 40 years? How will PURE be paid for? Will customers' utility bills be increased? And if so, by how much and when? So these are the questions that the community is asking, and I respectfully ask that you answer these questions for the public. That's my first motion.
Councilwoman Hurtak, you have lots of questions, and not to be redundant,
Okay, sure.
not to be redundant, and with Ms. Duncan sitting here now, do we want to go ahead and open 6 so that you might want to ask those same questions to 6?
I thought we had opened 5 and 6 together. My apologies.
Okay. Councilman Miranda.
Thank you. I'm not in disagreement with you. I think this is a clarity on items, but after you make your motion, and I'm sure it's going to pass, I'd like to make the same motion on how we're treating river water and what's in the river water that we have to treat. Are there any viruses there, like polio viruses? Are there any type of viruses? Are the COVID viruses going into the tertiary treatment plant? Other things that are viruses that are there now? Possibly. I'm not saying they're there because I don't know. And then there's another question. Is there any other entity that's dumping water close to where the green swamp, any cities to the east of us, or tributaries that are dumping water into the green swamp that is as contaminated or more contaminated than what the motion was by Ms. Hurtak? And I'd like to have those questions asked in the city. May I add that to your motion?
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. May I add that so we have one compelling motion? I don't want the public just to get one thing. I want the public to have transparency and knowledge, and I believe that's where Ms. Hurtak is leading, so that we have a complete look at the water, so that the public understand that what Columbus drank and pissed in the ocean, we're drinking today.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We can do that.
Councilman Goose, do you accept the amendment made by Councilman Miranda? Then we have a motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Goose. Roll call vote.
Vieira.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Hurtak.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Ms. Duncan, can we open number 6 now?
Yes, number 6 is a,
Yeah, I apologize.
There was a request, does that answer the question for number 5?
I believe it does. I believe that once they come back, once Ms. Duncan comes back to answer the questions that were asked by Councilwoman Hurtak and Councilman Miranda, then we can proceed after that.
So this continues the resolution to December 1st, or no?
No.
Okay, I just want to be clear.
No, that was not my resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Then we're gonna go back to number 5.
Okay. I can make a motion for that too. I make a motion that we vote no on continuing this because the citizens are telling us they don't want it. And if we need something like this, okay, I'm just going to keep going, and then I will explain why I want no. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I wish we had opened 5 and 6 at the same time. I'm sorry, we're going to have to do this a couple of times.
Then Ms. Duncan, then let's go to number 6. Staff can give us the report, and then we can make any decisions after that. Thank you.
yes, and number 6 is a companion item. It's part 2 of 2 for number 5. It's the resolution portion of number 5. So again, that goes along with number 5. 5 had more of the content, and 6 is the resolution that goes along with it.
Okay.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Another question that the public had asked is before I was here in February, council approved $1.2 million, I believe, to start this process of engaging with the community. From my understanding, only a small portion of that funding has been utilized, and everyone is asking, where has that money gone? Can you please provide us an answer, first of all, of where that money has gone?
Yes, so the amount that was approved for the contract was, I'll just round it if that's okay, a little over $1.1 million. We have spent a little more than $252,000. And so there's approximately $880,000 left on that original contract that was approved in December, January, February, sorry. February, thank you, apologize. So just quickly, some of the things that have been done with that money, I have a whole list I could send to you all if you like. But we've developed 5 potential alternatives with Tampa Bay Water, worked with their staff. They're interested in potentially purchasing 20 million gallons a day of reclaimed water from us. We worked with Tampa Bay Water on modeling to keep the Hillsborough River full. We've started discussions with Tampa Bay Water and SwiftMud on how this might increase the cooperative funding. SwiftMud and Tampa Bay Water are interested in the regional benefit that this project could provide. Again, we have 5 other member governments that could benefit ultimately from the project. We've drafted a matrix for evaluating alternatives similar to the matrix Tampa Bay Water uses to select alternative master plan projects. Of course, we will be sharing that with council when we get the opportunity based on further decisions. We have continued monthly stakeholder meetings, which you've heard about from the Sierra Club and others. And part of the time that we've spent since February has been reworking our public engagement plan, of which we were here today as a continuance now to try to get that in place, because we clearly need to have appropriate engagement. We want the input from the community. We also want to share facts and information and not just have them have to learn things off sources that maybe aren't quite so accurate. So that's part of the dilemma that we're facing. It's the chicken and the egg. We're trying to get out the starting gate, basically. We've also had a number of discussions with SwiftMud, the Hillsborough River Board, and regarding how Pure could help the minimum flows for the Hillsborough River. We've discussed continuing to discharge at the Howard F. Curran Treatment Plant as an environmental benefit that we want to request an opinion on from DEP. We spent a good amount of time working with one of the stakeholders from Friends of the River on those ideas for asking that question of DEP, and we are looking forward to having that answer back probably November of what their opinion is about the discharge being an ecological benefit or not. We've worked on enhanced source control. We've talked to some industry facilities that are discharging to talk to them about improving their water quality. So again, it's not on the taxpayers and on the water system to treat other water that's coming to us. And we've started developing a pilot plan. Again, we're trying to look at other technologies such as the ion exchange. So we have a pilot started to further analyze and study that, because that could be a great benefit to the safety component that's of much concern. There's several more pages of things that we've done with those monies, but I'll stop there because I think you kind of get the idea. We have been working on what we can be working on so far.
I know that and I'm sure the public would love an itemized list of how the money's being spent, and so it would be great to get that list, but also attached to the list how much money was spent on that. Is that staff time? Is that like, and then you mentioned something about drafting a letter to DEP.
Yes.
Is that letter, from my understanding, working with the stakeholders, you are trying to ask DEP for an appeal, saying that we don't, just finding out if we actually really need to, stop putting our outflow into the bay.
Yes, we want to ask the question as to whether our discharge could be considered as a beneficial use to the bay. We do have a highly treated wastewater discharge, thank you. Again, it was a cutting edge at the time in the 1980s, and there was controversy then about why do we have to spend the money on this. So we've always prided ourselves on being cutting edge. We want to ask the question to the DEP, can our discharge be considered a beneficial use? But we also want to do that in concert with the stakeholders on how we decide to ask a question. We're planning to share, apologize for my voice, planning to share that draft with the council before it's sent, which is approximately within a week or two that we plan to do that.
Okay, so you're gonna bring that back to us, to share it with us and the stakeholders?
Yes.
Before it's sent? Okay.
Yes.
I would love it if you brought to the stakeholders first, and then we got feedback from both you and the stakeholders before we sent that question.
Certainly. Could I just step out for a second?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Take your time.
When do you
Take
step
your
up here?
time.
I'll be right back.
And to Councilwoman Hurtak's point, the reintroduction to this water into the bay, with the exception of Piney Point and the loss of seagrasses because of tidal flow going up and down the upper bay, our bay is the cleanest it's been in 50 years.
Well,
With the exception of Piney Point, with the exception of seagrasses.
Even with that said, and I'm not here to disrupt what you say, I believe what you say, I understand it's fact, we're still dumping about 370 tons, what's it called, I forget, into the bay.
Nutrients, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nutrients into the bay, which is small compared to what it was.
That's right.
but we actually do have a presentation coming in front of us on November 3rd from the Tampa Bay Estuary Program to talk about how seagrasses are actually dying. So
That's because of tidal flows.
well, and again, it's all connected, right? I mean, so we expect that letter with input from the stakeholders, and pretty much from now on, everything that we, in my opinion, that we talk about that has to do with anything having to do with this water, I'm going to want to have a stakeholder attachment to it, because our stakeholders have an incredible amount of knowledge. They aren't just people we picked off the street. These folks have, hundreds of years of experience together. Please take your time.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you've got water
Sorry.
right, yeah, no, take your time, take your time.
Put her back, you don't look too good.
But I do want to, I'm trying.
No, you keep on going.
This isn't,
What came before you?
to me, this is an issue of accountability. In my day job, I work on midterm evaluations of projects to establish whether progress is being made and if funding should continue to flow to these projects. I see no evidence that any real progress is being made on this because we don't have the numbers in front of us. I don't see anything other than conversation, and I'm just not going to support further funding of it at this time, or I'm just not going to support further funding of it, period. I am moving that we direct the remaining unspent $880,000 allocated in February to solely answering the question of what results from moving forward with the status quo on the following issues: the unfunded state mandate about wastewater, the Hillsborough River minimum flows, and drought-proofing the reservoir. I have a very specific motion about this. I'd like to make a motion for staff to use the funding left over in the PCL contract, which is approved in February of 2022. We already have a contract signed to give money to this organization to analyze both the best and worst case scenarios of continuing with the status quo on Senate Bill 64, the unfunded mandate from the state, minimum flows on the Hillsborough River, and drought-proofing the reservoir. And I want this to come back during a workshop session on April 27th, 2023, so that we can have community input. I'd also like staff to conduct a preliminary findings meeting with stakeholders in late March of 2023, so that we have their input before you even come to us. Additionally, I would also ask that staff keep council briefed and up to date between now and when PCL comes back with its findings. And last, but not least, with this new Florida DEP regulation or question, that the stakeholders and us are going to have. I also asked that staff come back on November 3rd during the administration update with feedback from the Florida DEP regarding the beneficial use question about our discharge.
Oh, you did your homework, didn't you?
I did my homework. I've been busy.
Mr. Massey?
Real quickly, I was having a conversation with Mr. Shelby. Obviously, council can ask for staff for information regarding various items before it votes on a contract, but the negotiation of the contract is really done by staff, and that's not within council's purview to direct how that happens. Obviously, you know, when the contract comes before you, if they've not given you the appropriate public input or has not fully answered your questions or questions of the public, you can disapprove the contract. But the way our system is set up, the charter is set up, the negotiations are done by the administration. So
Mr. Chairman?
I'm going to go with our council first.
Was your motion in reference to an existing contract?
Yes. And I have had conversations with staff that have said that they do not disagree with my motion, that they are happy to work on modifying the contract to answer my questions.
Thank you.
So yes, I'm sorry. This is not just like throwing it out there. I'm trying to work with everyone. I asked the question if we could move the money and if we could reallocate it to this simple question, because to me the simple question that everyone is asking us is, do we need this? And so this is, to me, using the contract we already have to answer the questions, what are the best and worst case scenarios if we just keep doing what we're already doing, which is what the public is asking us to do, to just keep doing what we're already doing. They don't want this. So let's find out what the best and worst case scenarios are if we just keep the status quo.
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't get to hear the full comment. Is it okay if I speak, Chair?
Yeah, no, you finish your comment.
Thank you.
I will get to Councilman Carlson after Councilman Goose.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan.
Thank you. So yes, that the request is within the scope that's been negotiated and approved by council. We have certain flexibility within these scopes to make adjustments. We can certainly make that adjustment within this approved scope. Morris was talking about the bigger process. But yes, this is a housekeeping type activity that we can do within that scope, and we'd be happy to do that.
I appreciate that.
Councilman Goose.
Yeah, that was my concern when Mr. Massey said about the contract. I mean, if council is asking the administration to look at a contract and to look at the modification of a contract, I don't think there will be a conflict of this body doing that. I mean, I was curious when he said that. So I see a bigger scope, but if we pay so many dollars and this council has approved and things not right, and this council comes to you and says something's not right, we want you to go back and look at this contract and modify it if can or whatever verbiage is. I think we should be allowed the opportunity to do that, or we should be able to do that.
Yeah, I think it's just a difference between renegotiating a contract terms and adjusting within the approved scope. So we're within that second part that would be okay.
All right, thank you.
We have a motion on the, Councilman Miranda.
Councilman
Carlson, then Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, sir. The question that Councilmember Hurtak brought up, and sorry I'm losing my voice, the public wants to know, do we need this? The simple answer is no, we don't need it. And I think just about everybody who's sitting behind the podium there would be able to at least at parts agree with that. It's really disappointing the three reasons that were given for this project, because none of them really apply. The bottom line about why we would need this, it's really just a question of what do we do with this 50 MGD? The other questions are separate from this, but just to address them quickly, number one, we need this for minimum flows. I've told staff that's a statement that misleads the public. The only reason we need minimum flows is because we want to be able to pull our 82 or 83 MGD. We can easily buy, if we're not hitting minimum flows, we can buy the difference from Tampa Bay Water. We don't need this for minimum flows. Saying that we need it for minimum flows misleads the public and scares the public. Number two, we need to quote unquote drought proof our system. That's not true either. In the situation where you hit the worst drought in 100 years, I think the city pulled like 41 MGD from Tampa Bay Water, and Tampa Bay Water broke their permits even to hit that. So we don't need that. And if you think we're not happy with the way the contracts are written now, let's just change the interlocal agreement. The simple thing is to change the interlocal agreement. Every year, the city of Tampa is asked by the regional supplier, and Ms. Miranda is on the board, but they're asked by Tampa Bay Water, how much do you need? If we go back to them and say, we need to modify the interlocal agreement because we're worried about drought. Now, many of the environmental representatives said they're not worried about drought. They think climate change is going to cause us to have more flooding. But if we are worried about that, then we can change the interlocal agreement to provide for temporary droughts and also the once in 100 years one. The third reason for it that was given is for the state law. Well, we know, or at least I know from talking to people in Tallahassee, that before we were all on council, representatives of the city lobbied to get this legislation passed. We can turn our lobbyists onto getting it changed. The simple thing is to get it changed, but when I talk to staff, they're not interested in that. We could also ask for a delay, but I was told by staff they're really not interested in that either. So we need to figure out what to do with that. The bottom line is we don't need this. There already was an alternatives analysis. We demanded that they do this, 2 years ago? And they spent a lot of money. We even demanded that they hire an outside firm that was not going to get the final contract. The alternatives analysis they're proposing now is going to be done by the firm that's ultimately going to get bigger contracts afterwards. They're not excluded. But even the alternatives analysis by the objective firm did not include the variables presented in the right way to make it an objective analysis. Ultimately, any analysis is biased by the model that you create. And the easy example to look at is the purple pipes, and I could go into this. We on the cost, we're getting all kinds of different information about the costs, and as I mentioned before, and those numbers are all over the place. The bottom line is that the city of Tampa wants to own this project. And let's say it's only $2 billion, or let's say it's $6 billion. Why does the city of Tampa want to burden our ratepayers with the debt and rate burden of carrying this project when it could be done in the region? And one of the excuses that's usually given is, well, the regional supplier, Tampa Bay Water, isn't even interested in looking at this. It's not on their short list. That's because in 2018, 2 representatives of the city asked them to take it out. They said this alternative that you're looking at does not match the TAP project. And so they said, we want it taken out. So what we simply have to do is pass a motion and ask them to put it back in. And one of the excuses given, well, Tampa Bay Water is looking at spending using 20 MGD. Well, what that still allows the city of Tampa to do is to spend some big bucket of money to process the other 30 MGD. Somebody just wants a big project. They want to burden our ratepayers and our residents with this big project that we don't need. The entire region, if you look at the forecast, the entire region in 2050 is going to need 33 MGD. And Tampa, net of conservation, is only going to need 8 or 9 MGD in 30 years. Why would we today spend billions of dollars on a project that the whole region is not going to need in 30 years, and maybe based on the information I've gotten from the environmentalists, not even in 100 years? It's a complete waste of money. And to say that the public doesn't understand it, or the scientists in the room right now don't understand it, or they don't like the egg factor, it's really insulting to the public. It's insulting to all of us. We've looked at this. We don't need it. We need to just kill this project. We need to kill it in every way and make the water department go back and cooperate with the region again. And I've got some motions later if we can get to them, but I think we should just kill this completely. We should not allow it to continue. Thank you.
Councilman Vera, then Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My thoughts on this, we've been dealing with this debate and this narrative. It's been a journey. It's been like two and a half years. It's been a really long time. I've taken a lot of votes to continue the dialogue, to continue the process, et cetera, to get a lot of information out. And over the last 2.5 years, 2 years or so, we've been able to find out a lot of things. Not all of us are water experts, obviously. I sure as heck am not. So we obviously have a lot in that regard. This is, by virtue of what we've seen from the public, a very, very hard sell. It is. And I don't think it's because it's complicated. I think it's because it's something that the public has shown that they're against. And I think that's obvious. I've always said that the administration, the executive, bears the burden in terms of dealing with the public on an issue like this. That's the way our city government is set up and whatnot. And over the last 2.5 years, there has been a lot of dialogue. There has been. I know we're funding things for community engagement. There has been. The media's reported a lot on these stories. We're getting emails honestly, in the last week and a half, I don't know how many emails I've gotten on this, maybe 100, maybe 200. You know, one of my pet peeves is always whenever we get 2 or 3 people speaking on something, and folks go, the community's speaking out, and I go, it's not necessarily the community. This is the community. To me, this is the community. There's a lot of people that have been speaking out. So I do think, though, that this is something that, in terms of the mandate, if we can't get away from it, it's going to continue to come back to us. But there are certain things that the public, I think, has spoken out very unequivocally on. With regards to putting used water as drinking. That's something that really turns off the public. It just does. It just does. I've tried to wrap my mind around it potentially over the last 2.5 years. And it's something that I think the public is very much so against and whatnot. It's an issue that won't go away. We're up against the clock, but we have to realize that when it comes to the engagement with the public, they have spoken out very much so on this issue. They have spoken out very much so on this issue. And I do think that City Council on this project needs to draw the line that after 2.5 years, I don't know if you want to call it a start over. I don't know if you want to take certain things off the table that the public clearly doesn't want. I think that's something that we should be cognizant of and listen to. And I think this is a good time to do that, in my opinion. Now, and there's another thing I want to say. It's really easy whenever you're speaking on something that is controversial, as the public, et cetera, to go, well, staff's doing this, staff's keeping this from the staff. I work with staff a lot, obviously, as an elected official. We have really good staff here in the city of Tampa. They're hardworking, they're honest, they're good people. They're civil servants, they're public servants. So anyone who would say that somebody's benefiting from this, there's something out there, I disagree. Until I see something to the contrary, obviously. I never want to jump on that assumption, and I think that's wrong. But I do think, though, that we do need to draw the line on this. The public is overwhelmingly opposed to this. We've had 2.5 years to talk about this, to have a dialogue on this, and I think we've heard from the public on it. And that is a big contributing factor on an issue like this, when the public is going to be, dealing with it day in and day out. We listen to the public on an issue like this, 110%. Just some of my brief thoughts. Thank you, sir.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you. I believe Ms. Councilmember Hurtak spoke about April. I suggest you have it before the election, not after the election.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, makes no difference to me, but this is going to be an issue, make it before the election so the public has a chance to vote.
When could you do it?
We could work to have it before April if that's the desire of council.
Okay, so.
We could do it, but as our original continuance is February.
So you want to do,
That-
do we have February 23rd workshop? Okay, February 23rd workshop it is. Then I also want to change in my motion to have a preliminary findings meetings with stakeholders in January. Then, late January.
Is that the former motion, or is that going to be a motion that you're making now?
I've made the motion already, now I'm modifying it.
Okay.
On the recommendation of Councilman Miranda.
Second on that.
We have a motion made by Councilwoman Hurtak, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Any further discussion?
Real quick, thank you very much. Councilman Vieira has already stated, the huge amount of public opposition to this, the probably hundreds of emails in opposition to this. And I remember, and I always bring this up, but 2016 with that stormwater vote of $251 million, which was a property tax assessment increase, essentially, I had people, individuals that said, please pass this. People that are landowners, people that were property owners that were going to be paying more in taxes because they wanted the flooding fixed throughout the city. I have not received that with Pure. If I search my emails, I might find 1 or 2 in support. I trust people like Phil Compton and Gary Gibbons and Kent Bailey, before them. There are some grave concerns. And, I often look to my mother. you know, for guidance and whatnot. And if I look at it like this, the litmus test, if I can convince my mother and if I can sway her on something, then I can, you know, maybe it's right to vote on it. I can't convince my mother on this. And she's pretty easy to sway, and she's just totally opposed to it. So I use that as a litmus test. That's one thing, but this is a very, very, very hard sell. Again, I mean, if there was 1,000, if there's 998 people in opposition to this, there might be 2 in support, at least in my experience, talking to people in the public, neighborhood associations, not just talking about the people here, but I mean, when you have this amount of people saying no to something, or they're scared of it, or they're scared for their children and grandchildren of what's going to be in the water, I mean, this is tough. And the question that's been asked, is this absolutely necessary? And are we willing to risk the future? Are we willing to risk a possible class action lawsuit one day? I don't want that blood on my hands. If it's about, you know, well, you raised my taxes, but I fixed your flooding, or if I'm supporting all for transportation, which I am, because I want the roads to get fixed and our sidewalks to be, I want to go to Eugene, Duncan, and say, hey, can we get this paved? And you say, well, we have that funding in place. That's different. But this is messing with people's health, potentially. And that is a big concern to me. So, thank you very much.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
And I 100% agree, and I'm happy to support a motion or even make a motion to say, no, we're not going to fund this anymore.
I'm going to support your motion.
But this motion is asking, and it's just, and I'll be selfish, it's for me as much as it is for what I've read in the emails from the public of what do we do. A lot of my emails are saying, let's just stick with what we have.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I want to know is, what are the ramifications, both good and bad, for sticking with what we have? And I want this information from the PCL contract, then I want the stakeholders to weigh in on the answers that we get, and then I want us to come back to a workshop together to discuss. And if the public still says we don't want it and we're happy with the way things are, then awesome. I'm fine with that. But that's what this particular motion's about. And then if somebody else wants to make it, or I'll make the motion to say no to further funding, then that's fine.
Mr. Chair.
I will get you after Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Carlson. Councilman Miranda.
I'm not disagreeing with Ms. Hurtak at all. However, her motion for 17 items is now going to be heard in February. So does it cost any money at all today to let 5 and 6 coincide with the new motion that we have on the floor? Not only her 17 items for this type of water, but for the type of water, river water, well water that we're getting now, wherever we're getting the water from to use, we use on a daily basis in the city of Tampa to meet the 17 same criteria for the water we're talking about and the water we have now. And the other part was any governmental agency east of us, if they have dumping any water near the green swamp where it's filtering to us. And those are the same things, so I agree with you, but I like to have everything done, 5 and 6 and this. If it takes all day to do something, I want to do it. Not only for transparency, but who is right and who is not right. And I'm not saying there's a wrong. Sometimes you say, I hate something. No, I don't hate anything. I like things more than others. That's all.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes, thank you, sir. I respectfully have to vote against Councilmember Hurtak's proposal only because I don't think we should waste any more time on this. We don't need it. And the answers to the questions are biased by the model that is in it. An example, if we just saw the 3 reasons, the rationale for this, which I have been disputing for months. If we assume that we have to have minimum flows and we can't, that automatically assumes then we're not able to buy water from someone else. It's a flawed model to look at it that way. And I think the water department needs to come back to us first with a new model for how to look at it. The real question that needs answered is, what do we do with this 15 MGD, if anything? And the second question is, what do we do about responding to the DEP? Well, first of all, we should lobby the state to change that agreement. Second, we should work with the community to put up an honest proposal to the DEP. I was told by staff they're not interested in getting a delay. They're not interested in getting exception because they want to build something. And so if that's the attitude, they're going to come back with answers to the questions that justify doing something. But we don't need it for minimum flows. We don't need it to be drought proof. And we don't need it to comply with state law. What we need to do is find other solutions to these problems so that we're not just looking at it from the lens of what do we do with this 50 MG. Thank you.
Councilman Goods.
I've been sitting here listening, and we've got $800,000 left. I don't want to blow $800,000 because listening to some of the council members, they're already convinced that no is the way to go. So to just waste $800,000 for a no vote to come back in 2 or 3 months, to me, it's crazy. When we have other issues going on, and I'm kind of, I always be a supporter of Councilwoman, but for me, $800,000 in hearing you, 2 other council members, I haven't heard from the chairman yet, are already saying no already. And I would hate to blow $800,000 if the answer is to kill it now. So, when I talked to Ms. Duggan, I was up front. I said, I like to listen to what everyone has to say first. I said an amendment to maybe wait down the line to hear from DEP or whatever, who had to wait for them to get answered. I was to think about that, but I wanted to hear what everyone has to say as a consensus first to go how I would vote. But right now, $800,000 just to say we're going to go do this, and I'm hearing folks up here already saying that let's just kill it. Then why are we even wasting $800,000?
Could I answer that?
Ms. Duncan, please.
Just very briefly. What I'd like to ask is we do a follow through with Councilman Hurtak's recommendation, because we would like the chance for, again, our agency partners, DEP, Swiftmud, Tampa Bay Water, they all have an interest in solving these problems with us. They will be giving us feedback in the next few months, of which some of that we have to respond to, particularly Swiftmud. So again, I think if we had a compromise of not approving the amendment, but letting us take the monies we have to answer the questions that Ms. Hurtak is proposing, then that's probably the best of both worlds.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
My motion doesn't have anything to do with Pure. This, to me, is not about Pure. I am already saying no to Pure. I don't want any more funding for Pure. But if we're being told that we have to find out something to do with this water, if staff is telling us that, hey, these are problems, other people may not agree, but this is what I'm being told. Mm-hmm. I want the chance to find out, because the other issue is what happens if we don't comply. Mm-hmm. I just want the answers to that. So this to me is not about Pure. I want Pure to go away. I've said that from the first time I'm here. No for Pure. No, let's just get rid of it. If we're going to look at something else in the future, my goal is just to go completely back to the question of why are we even talking about this? And so to me, when I go back to why are we even talking about this, why I'm talking about this is because we're being mandated by the state to do this. And you have said that in the next couple of weeks, you're going to have a finalized letter that you're going to talk to the stakeholders before bringing to us, before sending to DEP to get an answer about whether we even need to do this.
Correct.
And I would happily say that if we find the answer that no, we don't have to do this, that we would stop this motion I'm asking for to spend money on figuring out what we need to do about it, or if we need to do anything about it. I don't know if that's clear.
Yes, it's clear to me.
I'm not asking for money to be spent on Pure.
You're right.
Just, if I could just clarify, the funding that you're being asked to spend is under the contract that we put the label on it, purifying, sorry, I've been saying it so many times, purifying usable resources for the environment, just to kind of give it a name. You know, it's hard to talk about something if it doesn't have a label. So the contract that money is in is that PCL Corolla contract. However, it's our opinion, and we can confirm with legal, that the tasks you're asking are in the spirit of that scope where we can make those adjustments to spend the money on the questions you're being asked that you'd like us to answer. that make sense?
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes, one thing I think we ought to make a motion later about asking the staff to work collaboratively with us in the community on the DEP application order. But embedded in that, it would be great if we could get a commitment from the administration that their lobbyists will not in any way lobby the DEP or the state to reject that as a beneficial use. The second thing is, Councilmember Hurtak, would you consider amending your motion to add Sierra Club and Friends of the River, representatives of Sierra Club and Friends of the River as representatives of the larger 20 plus group coalition to present at the same time?
Absolutely. I have not asked them, but I would hope that they would present at the same time. No, that's actually what I was trying to hope with the workshop, is that we could all come together and discuss. I'm getting a nod from the audience.
With that amendment, I would support the motion, just because hopefully there will be collaborative effort in the meantime, and then whether those groups agree or disagree, we'll hear from them directly, and there'll be content experts, not just speaking in public comment.
Who seconded my motion?
I'll second.
No, someone did. I just don't remember who it was.
I think it's good.
Would you?
It's been so long ago.
Would you accept that amendment? Because I accept that amendment.
I'll accept it.
I have it all written out. I'll give it to you.
I just want to be clear, and you clarify, because I'm hearing pure, and that's what I'm thinking, that we're talking 800. You're saying we just want a fact finding on this here, then I can go with that. But I'm going to make sure that if you're going to kill something, then you kill it and don't waste my money.
I want to kill the idea that we need to inject this into the aquifer, because that's what people are telling us they don't want. I just want to find out what happens if we stick with what we're doing right now. We're being told by staff that this is a problem. But if we get input from all of these other entities to find out, I mean, what if if the only punishment we get is some fines, and then we can buy extra water from Tampa Bay Water or whatever, great.
I mean, I'll go along in a second, but I'm just saying, if it comes back and the community is still at odds,
then we're done.
I'm going to kill it.
Yeah. I agree with you, then we're done.
I hate to be you down there.
Yeah, real,
I promise you I have it, and I will write it.
Can we get to the heart of the matter here?
Yes.
Mr. Ling.
I have the motion from Hurtak, seconded by Miranda. However.
For what date?
For the workshop to be held on February 23rd. However, the decision needs to be made on items 5 and 6, or if you're going to continue it or not. If you are going to continue to go along with your motion, council cannot make decisions during the workshop. So if you want those items to go along with these two items, 5 and 6, you don't. Okay.
Nope.
Now, Councilman Carlson has amended Councilwoman Hurtak's motion,
Yeah, I'm writing it down.
and the seconded agreed to that amendment.
But the second was actually, no.
Are you agreeing to the amendment made by
I
Councilman
agree,
Carlson?
and believe me, I'm not a member of any one of these 5 organizations. I think I've sent some money to all of them at one time or another, and I got a little thing about a little card or something that says my name on it, which I don't use, but I'm not a member, although I send money to some of them. I don't know if you're one of them or not. That's all I got to say for the record, just in case somebody checks me out.
Okay, we have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Any further discussion? Carlson amended it, which now it's his motion. The amendment to Councilwoman Hurtak's motion.
There was no vote
I
on
thought
it.
he amended it. He said he wanted Friends of the River involved.
But that was an amendment. That was a question if she would accept that amendment. I don't think he made a motion to amend. I didn't hear a motion to amend in a second and a vote on the motion.
Councilwoman Hurtak has made a motion, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Maniscalco? Yes. Vieira?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
Hurtak?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Now, what is the pleasure of council for agenda items number 5 and 6?
Move to continue 5 and 6 to, no?
Second, wait a second. Councilman Hurtak.
No, I move that we discontinue the funding.
Well, we've
This
done
is
it
an
already.
additional.
There's 800 something, I'm sorry.
Councilman Miranda.
It is my understanding that the unspent money, 800 some odd $1,000, would not be spent between now and whatever. Is that correct or not?
No, the 880,000+ is under the original contract. We would spend those monies to answer the question, to prepare for the workshop. The continuance has the additional funds, 1-point-something million, sorry, don't have the number in front of me.
1.172.
Thank you. That is the continuance, that's the continuance that's before you today, that you can decide to vote to support or to not support.
So it's, how much money are you going to send? It was 17 questions that you had, she asked, and then I added to what current water system and any other flows that are coming from somewhere else north to the Green Swamp. That's going to take how much?
That won't take much money at all. We're gonna come back in December with those questions answered. However, the questions that Councilwoman Hurtak is proposing, that will take some time and money, and we'll come back either February or April. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure which was landed on for that, but we could do either.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Okay, this took me a while too. There's 2 pots of money for 1.27 million. So the first one y'all approved in February, and that we had 250,000 spent, and we have 880 that was already approved. That I want some of it, however much it costs, to go toward finding the answers to what the deal is. I want to kill the additional 1.172 million that we had talked about adding to make a more robust system. That we're just gonna kill, no more. I mean, that's what I want. I can't speak for all of
Say
you.
the agenda item.
Could I
So-
just show the Elmo real quick to show the money, a pie chart? So this is the existing money. The original agreement was 1.5 and change. That's because we had money from Swift Mud included, which was about 440,000. So we kind of take that out. PCL's contract was the difference of that, which is about 1.1 million. We've spent 252,000 of that, and the 881 is what's left over. That's existing approved dollars that we'll use to prepare for the workshop.
All right.
That much? You kidding? That much?
Well,
We didn't say we're spending all of the money. We're using that pot to draw from to prepare for the workshop.
What's the amount?
We just got the question asked of us in this moment, so we haven't had a chance to talk with our consultant and redo that housekeeping on the scope to rework the tasks. So I don't have a dollar amount of what that will cost right here at this time. It'll be less than 888,000, probably significantly less.
Council.
And the question, if you can go back to that chart, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, may I just inquire? When you say there's a money spent, that is understood. What is when you say it's encumbered for a specific purpose, is it
Yes.
not? So if some of that money is spent for a specific purpose, and that specific purpose still needs to be done at some point, that money would have to be replenished, is that correct?
No, the dollars that are left, the scope that we currently have, and the questions that are being asked align very closely. So, again, we'll get a legal opinion with more detail, because again, we're just having this conversation right now. But our engineering opinion is that the tasks align closely enough where it's a housekeeping exercise to adjust those tasks and get these questions answered for the workshop.
But you don't have the cost to be able to provide to council this afternoon because it was just brought up, is that correct?
Do you want to say something? Let me let Chuck chime in on it, if you don't mind, our Water Department Director.
Good morning, Chuck Weber, Water Department Director. Yeah, the scope that was approved in February, part of that scope is to do exactly what Councilwoman Hurtak has asked, is what happens if we keep the status quo? That is part of the scope. That's part of what they're required to answer. That is part of the scope. So we can use existing monies to do that. We can, after this meeting, go and find out exactly how much that would cost and provide that to council. It will definitely be less than the 800,000, but without talking to them about it, there's no way I can give you an accurate estimate. There are challenges to answering some of the questions related to minimum flows, like what do we do? I think even Councilman Carlson mentioned one of them. Changing the interlocal agreement will be no small task. If we're buying more water from Tampa Bay Water, how's that going to affect the bill? How are we going to have our connections for Tampa Bay Water? What size connections will we need? Is what we have adequate enough? There are a lot of questions that require an engineering look to answer adequately. So that's what that money will be used for, and I'm happy to answer any other questions you have about that.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, can I make a couple of quick motions that would inform this, please? See where they go?
We have a motion on the floor and a second.
Yes.
I'd like to.
No, we actually don't.
No.
I'd like to make a motion to ask city staff to make a good faith effort to meet with council and the public to jointly develop a request of DEP to make the current usage a beneficial use.
Second.
What's the beneficial use? Are we gonna have car washes on the weekends?
What that means is that we're currently discharging it into the bay, and if the state law says that we have to use water for a beneficial use. I'm talking to the state who say that what we're doing now is a beneficial use, and so it doesn't mean that we wouldn't do something else in the future. It would just buy us time.
Mr. Weber, I don't get it either.
I would just bring to your attention, that is exactly what we were talking about earlier before. We've already made that commitment. We've worked with stakeholders to develop the request, and that is the request that we are going to circulate in its final form to the stakeholders and to council to look at and comment on before we submit to DEP. So we've already made that commitment.
I'd just like to codify it in a motion, please.
Is there a second to that motion?
I made a second.
We have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Is there a date for that report to come back?
Same time?
No, it needs to be.
Is there a date for that, Councilman Carlson?
No, it's not a report. It's just a request for staff to work in good faith with the community and council to send a request to DEP to call the current use a beneficial use.
Sometime before December?
Sure, before December.
There's a motion. Ms. Duncan.
Excuse me, I just wanted to say, we could do that sooner than December. We were actually planning to share that letter amongst the stakeholders and the council within the next couple of weeks, with the hope of getting the answer back from DEP in November, such as Councilman Hurtak previously mentioned.
Thank you. Motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. Roll call vote.
Miranda,
No, because you can do it earlier.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried, Miranda voting no.
The second one, Mr. Chair, is I would like to make a motion to request or to ask that staff begin working with the Tampa Bay Water Board to discuss modifying the interlocal agreement to increase access to water during droughts, and that Tampa Bay Water consider connecting us directly to the regional pipeline.
Second.
There's a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. Is there any discussion? Councilman Miranda.
The only discussion, it's an open question with no end the way he's asking the questions. You got to be more specific in my mind. What is he looking for, sir?
But ideally,
They produce,
what
Tampa Bay Water produces about 180-some million gallons of water a day. The Tampa produces about a third, about 82 million gallons a day. So I don't understand the board, to open up a contract like that. I've tried for 3 or 4 times, and I've never succeeded. So I'm willing to do it this time again. But once they open the contract, got to be very specific. If not, the whole contract's up, which I'd rather see the whole contract to be up.
Yeah, the problem is that what the main 2 reasons to for Pure that we're given, one is minimum flows and the other is drought proof. Another one that's often given is saltwater intrusion and sulfur springs. The solution to all of them could be to buy more from Tampa Bay Water. And so the reason in the modeling, one of the reasons why we don't do that is because we would have to modify the interlocal agreement. And so all this simply does is states a city council request of staff to begin the conversation so that we don't wait. Like Councilmember Miranda said, it may take a long time. The reason why I mentioned the regional pipeline is because currently Mr. Weber has some concerns about the treatment that is required by mixing 2 different sources of water and 2 different treatment methods that in the way we're currently connected. And so connecting it to the regional pipeline may still mean that there is some additional treatment that would be required, but it would connect us more directly to the regional source of water and potentially increase our capacity if needed.
And who's going to bear the cost of connection?
That's something we would have to figure out. But as we talk about the cost, if we spend $6 billion, that's going to be a big cost to our ratepayers when we won't need 50 million gallons a day for 100 years. So this would be buying on an incremental basis, and hopefully Tampa Bay Water would include that in our variable rate in connecting us that way.
We have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Vieira,
Question on the motion, just kidding. Yes.
Maniscalco, Miranda,
Yes, providing that, we're going to send a letter to the chairman.
I will send a letter.
Thank you.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the third one, real fast, the third one is just to make a motion to ask that Tampa Bay Water include our 50 MGD as one of the alternative sources in their next alternative sources analysis. So they do a periodic update on their alternative sources, and in 2018, we asked them to take it out. And so if we ask them to put it back in, then they'll include it as a regional analysis, and they'll tell all of us whether it's the safest, most cost-effective source, and that could be parallel to our own analysis, but at least we have another opinion there that would where it's included as one of the options for the region.
Mr. Weber.
That is one of the options that we've been studying as part of Pure, and we've made considerable progress on that. We've asked them how much water they're interested in. The staff at Tampa Bay Water has indicated 20 million gallons a day is what they're interested in. They indicated that the number is derived from the need for the region. They don't see the need to purchase 50 MGD. We can certainly see if we can make that request of them and get a response in writing. But the indication that they've given us over the last, really the last year, is that 20 million gallons a day is as much as they believe they would be willing to purchase. So again, that's the indication that they're giving us at the staff level. I don't see any problem with asking you if they wouldn't mind, giving us something in writing as to what they might be willing to purchase.
We have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Vieira, Maniscalco, Miranda,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. What is the pleasure of council with 5 and 6?
Let me try. File number PW 22-75853 and file number PW 22-75886. To deny it, to cancel it, to, like, what's? Tell me what to say.
Well, I'd take the vote separately if you don't mind, but also.
Oh, okay.
Just a reminder, the denial of a resolution does not necessarily, I don't know whether it's in the budget or not, whether it necessarily removes it from the budget. It's just a particular resolution for an amendment to an agreement. It's denied, but it doesn't prevent it from being brought back by the administration. If the administration so chooses, that comes back. It's not necessarily binding. Just so you know, so if you want to deny it, that's fine, but just with the understanding that you are denying the amendment to the agreement, and the agreement still exists. Is that correct? It's just, this is an amendment to an agreement.
It exists, but it cannot be spent unless the council approves. So there's not really any concern as far as that goes. And maybe Morris wants to chime in.
We have an existing contract in effect.
Exactly.
And the scope of that contract and the money under the current contract have been appropriated. So that exists, and what you are being asked to act on or potentially act upon today is an amendment to that contract and potentially some additional money going into that contract. You can say no to the amendment to the contract and no to the additional money going toward it, but the existing contract and the existing appropriation stands.
Mr. Massey, we know who you are,
Yeah,
but can you please
Mr.
state your
Massey,
name?
all right, Morris Massey, Deputy City Attorney.
Thank you.
Is that understood then?
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, and I, what Mr. Massey said, I mean, it makes sense. The way I see this motion, it's city council pushing back in terms of stating a position and whatnot, and wanting, I guess, if you will, significant radical overhaul, if this ends up coming back to us in one form or another. That's kind of the way that I see it. I understand what Mr. Massey said, yeah, I mean, and if it does, if this is something, again, it's not going to go away, but it's certainly incumbent on us all, but especially the administration to, how shall I say it, build a bridge over troubled water. So there you go. Thank you.
Simon the Garfunkel.
You had to.
5 and 6 together, Madam Clerk, as a denial then? Okay.
If there's a motion to deny, then I'll second that motion.
We have
It is a motion to deny.
We have a motion made by Councilwoman Hurtak, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any further discussion?
Well, I want to clarify and say.
Councilwoman Hurtak, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just do want to say that I don't want to fund this anymore. To me, this is it. This is done. If we need to do something different, we'll deal with it in a different way. So I don't anticipate approving any more funding for Pure as it stands. And to me, that is closing it. I understand legally it's a little different, but to me, it's a closure.
Council?
Yeah, just yet know that you have an existing contract.
Yeah, yes, and I understand that, but what I'm saying
Right.
is in my vote, I'm saying not only am I denying this, I'm not going to approve any more money for it. If we want to do something different, we do something different.
Any further discussion? Mr. Massey, you wanted to say something?
Just in my closing, I won't speak again. This is an existing contract. The public will never know all the facts if we say no. Am I right or wrong?
I'm sorry, Councilman.
If this contract is stopped, will the
No.
public get any information on some of the answers that we need to say yes or no?
So again, the existing contract stays. The monies in that contract will be used to answer the questions for the workshop in February, including the ones you added, Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much.
The amendment for additional monies is being denied.
Yeah, in other words, this contract gets stayed and we get the answers that we need, right?
we get
I
the
wanna make
answers we
sure, I
need,
just wanna
but
make
we
sure.
are not giving them any more
I
money.
understand, I understand. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Any further comments? Thank you. Mr. Reamer, Mr. Barrett, Ms. Duncan, Mr. Weber, you've worked very hard at this, and I appreciate it. As I was told, that this type of water use with non-potable reclaimed water was eventually going to be done by the city of Tampa. However, Senate Bill 64 came along and forced our hand, made us rush into it. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I've said it over and over and over, and I will keep on saying it. Contact your legislators in Tallahassee and tell them that you do not like what they're doing to local municipalities and cities, because our hands are being forced. Roll call vote.
Carlson?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Viera? Yes. Maniscalco?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
Hurtak?
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
We are, no, we've got 1:30.
I got it.
And I know it's 1 o'clock now.
I'm looking forward to the next stakeholder.
Yes, sir. We got 1:30 items we have to open. Okay, 2 o'clock. We are adjourned until 2 o'clock.
I hope I didn't.